Emperor of the Desert. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 601, Devouring City launched. Time went to the end of get out of class. While attending class as a student, Qin Ren imagined in his mind the route and scale of his manipulation of the torches in Misaki City until now, using the spies disguised by the mirror sand. At the same time, he was also compressing the power of existence gathered in a noble phantasm Tersra. Although he no longer had to act as a passerby torch, he could not show all the power of existence he had collected. Moreover, as the price of using Shanna and Alistair to protect himself and allow himself to safely manipulate the torches distributed throughout Misaki City, he could not collect the power of existence wantonly, and could only rely on the imitation phosphorus to collect the power of existence of the torches. The efficiency was naturally not high. After a few days, the power of existence he collected only increased from 10 people to 12 people. Although it was said that the consumption of making various imitation phosphorus was excluded, there was no doubt that the efficiency was reduced. However, it was almost time. If his plan could succeed, he could at least obtain more than 1% of the power of existence that could be obtained by launching the Devouring City. 1% may sound like a small amount, but from Qin Ren's observation, if the Devouring City is activated, the existence power of nearly 1 million people in the entire Misaki City will be plundered by Faragni, and this is just the lowest expectation. He did not, dared not, and would not directly ask Alistair about the effect of the Devouring City law, but only hinted to Alistair that there seemed to be some mechanism that looked like the law of freedom in the torch. The existence power of nearly 1 million people is just the speculation of Qin Ren, a beginner who has learned a little knowledge of the law of freedom. The effect of the Devouring City law of freedom may be even greater. However, Qin Ren did not think that Faragni's plan would succeed, nor would he let it succeed. What he wanted was for this plan to activate and then fail. Most of the torches in various places in Misaki City have a law of freedom hidden in their bodies. This law of freedom is not a real-time type, but a trigger type. In layman's terms, it is a remote control type. As for whether it is a bomb or something else, Qin Ren does not even have a half understanding. However, Qin Ren could not understand the effect, but it did not prevent him from making a move. He only needed to replace the power of existence extracted by the trigger mechanism of the free law set in the torch with his own mirror sand when it was triggered. If he could successfully connect all his mirror sands back when Faragni's plan failed, he could snatch at least 10% of the results of the battle. But this is the best result. Qin Ren's plan is to pass the test, at least, get 1%. If he can get 1%, the power of existence he has can go from a slightly stronger torch to a powerful phosphorus or very weak disciple. If he can get 10%, the amount of power of existence he can retain is equivalent to that of a weak disciple. Although it cannot be compared with the Demon King level Red World Apostle, it is also a big step. As long as Shanna can win. If I remember correctly, in the animation plot, Shanna was almost defeated. Relying on her ignorant feelings for Yuji Sakai and the high emotions of the crisis, she released more disaster fire. In this case, after using a trick to shoot down Faragni's fireproof ring, Faragni was killed. But no one can predict the butterfly effect. If Shanna fails to shoot down Faragni's fireproof ring, loses or even dies, then it's all over. I have to be a babysitter. Qin Ren continued to plan in his mind how to ensure his own safety during the battle so that Shanna can successfully shoot down Faragni's fireproof ring, or shoot down Faragni's fireproof ring by himself. When Qin Ren's tactical plan was basically formed in his mind, the bell for the end of get out of class rang. Although there was only an hour of lunch break at noon and classes would resume immediately, school was over at 3 o'clock. Watching the students carrying briefcase-style backpacks leave the classroom one after another, leaving only the girls named Yoshida Kazumi and Ogata Matic as duty students to clean the classroom, Qin Ren silently walked towards Shanna and Sakayoji, who left together. The three of them moved at the same time again, heading towards the south of Misaki City. When they were about to clear the torches in this area, The seal was launched in the middle of Misaki City. Moreover, unlike the previous seals launched when phosphorus appeared, this time the seal had a large range and was rapidly expanding in all directions. "It's Faragni." Alistair's serious voice came from the pendant on Shanna's chest. "Shanna." Sakayuji immediately turned his head to look at Shanna, and Qin Ren also fixed his eyes on Shanna's face. "Move quickly." Without any hesitation, the power of existence surged in Shanna's body and gathered at her feet. With the dust stirring, Shanna's body rushed out like an arrow, rushing towards the direction of the seal. She no longer cared about Sakayuji and Qin Ren. The reason she would act with Sakayuji and Qin Ren was to find Faragni. At least, that's what she thought. Now that Faragni's position has been determined, there is no need to continue to act with the two for the incidental purpose of protection. It is obviously faster to rush over by yourself. With this idea in mind, Shanna rushed out. But it is obvious that the current situation is that they are attacking the torch in a big way, and Faragni can't help it and launch the devouring city in advance. But Qin Ren can't let Shanna act alone. Although there is Alistair as the last insurance, Faragni has many treasures in his hands. As far as Qin Ren knows, in the animation, there is a treasure that can force the Red World Apostles, including Alistair, to appear, and then because of the action of appearing, the power of existence is exhausted and returned to the Red World. This nanny is really not easy. Skillfully operating a part of the power of existence to gather in the feet, while the fine mirror sand transformed from the power of existence quietly enveloped the body, lifting the body lightly, and adjusting the most suitable movements and postures for sprinting. Qin Ren also rushed out following Shanna. With the experience gained through exchanging skills and accumulated in long-term battles, Qin Ren still caught up with Shanna even though he consumed less than 1/10 of Shanna's existence power. When Alistair and Shanna showed their surprise, he interrupted them with a question. "Alistair, are you sure what the free method Faragni is going to activate?" Hearing the question about the business, Alistair did not continue to ask about Qin Ren, but answered his question. Chapter 602, The Eternal Existence of the Coffin Tailor. Before, Yuji Sakai said something. The flame inside the torch beats like a heart. The older torches set by Shanna beat slower, while the new torches set by Phosphorus beat faster. Alistair, who seemed to have accepted the name Shanna, continued. "Yuji Sakai, he can clearly sense the situation. Neither Shanna nor Alistair could do this, although he was a combat type and not good at perception, and was sleeping in Shanna's body in a sealed way. He was at least the most powerful demon king standing at the top of the Red World. But even such Alistair could only sense the approximate flow direction of the power of existence. As for the perception of the torch, he could only sense whether it existed or not, whether it was strong or weak. He could not clearly sense the speed of the torch beating, but Yuji Sakai did it. And what Yuji Sakai said also reminded Alistair of something. The Red World Demon King, whose voice was solemn and mature, replied to Qin Ren. "A long time ago, in a city to the west, there was a demon king who installed mechanisms on the torches he gnawed, causing serious distortion of the world. His real name is the Coffin Tailor, and that Red World Demon King once caused a major event. It was because of that incident that many Red World Demon Kings, including me, realized that the disappearance of the power of existence would cause the world to distort. And that incident was also the reason for the birth of many fire mist warriors that exist today." Devouring the city, the Red World Demon King, whose name was Tanarang Jiuo, narrated in a solemn voice the event that made him determined to choose the first contractor to be his container. The Coffin Tailor would weave a mechanism called key thread on the torch he gnawed. As long as that guy gave an order, this mechanism would cause the shell of the substitute torch to decompose and restore it to its original power of existence. Qin Ren listened silently. As long as that guy eats about 10% of the population of the city where he hides and creates this number of torches as a basis, he can activate this free law. In an instant, all the torches will be decomposed. Because of the decomposition, they lose the function of substitutes and return to their original existence power. Decomposed in an instant. Qin Ren's eyes flashed, and he already understood the principle of this mechanism. As a substitute, the torches that serve as a buffer disappear quickly in a very short time, which will cause huge changes in this world. especially the city where the torches exist, and all people and things will suffer a severe impact. This huge existence power will be like a snowball, transforming all the edible and inedible things of the Red World Apostles into edible power. Alistair's tone became quite serious. We originally thought that this city was the hardest hit area. After all, other cities have also been devoured in large numbers over the years, with the number of torches exceeding 10% of the population. But an abnormally large number of torches appeared in the same place, and there were magical mechanisms inside. The situation is very similar to that time, although I don't think that Faragni can freely operate the unique secrets created by the Coffin Tailor. But as long as there is a slight possibility, the Fire Mist Warrior must do everything possible to annihilate it. It's really a grand plan. Qin Ren, who once cut off a timeline, created an anomalous zone, and transformed all the creatures on the entire planet into demons and destroyed them, made this comment, and this comment was made by Qin Ren sincerely. Now he is not the powerful demon god who can clean the surface of the earth with a small proxy wool body and easily destroy a planet, but just a slightly larger torch, decomposing the power of existence in large quantities, using the small world distortion collection produced by the rapid disappearance of quasi-causal phenomena, creating an avalanche effect to swallow the entire city. Such a plan is indeed huge for him now. So that's how it works. Is that the principle? Now that we know the principle, it's easier to deal with. He gently clenched his fists. Under the cover of the large-scale wave of existence force that Faragni launched to devour the city, some of the mirror sand in the torch body began to move. So, Mr. Alistair, what can I do? Although I don't have much effect on the front battlefield, I can still provide some support. The second half of the sentence made Shanna, who was about to speak, choke on her throat. After a moment of silence, Alistair did not refuse. Although he had his own protection was not perfect, and he could not guarantee that there would be no accidents. After dozens of seconds of silence, the two arrived at the center of Misaki City and arrived at Faragni's location. Faragni waved his arms with an intoxicated look on his face. On the ring finger, a silver ring was engraved with a fine and strange string of words, as if drawing a line in the center. One after another, as he waved his arm, the text strings emitted a pale white light, and the glowing words continued to emerge. Unconsciously, the words emitting pale white light embellished the seal like stars into a starry sky, and then, these pale white lights gathered together and gathered on the rag doll like phosphorus in his arms. Soon, this freestyle written in your body will be activated, and the huge power of existence required for this will be available immediately. Faragni's plan, his purpose, is to make his lover, this rag doll like phosphorus created by him, a real existence, a unique independent existence, from the phosphorus posture that he must replenish and maintain every 3 days to a real existence. The Coffin Tailor, this extremely powerful demon king, once launched the devouring city in order to give birth to his offspring, in order to activate the free law of the air of the two worlds, in order to create a child for himself and his lover, a human child. He launched the devouring city, and now, he was going to use these two free methods, the devouring city and his modified air of two worlds, to turn Marianne into a real existence. Marianne, very soon, the two of us will become eternal beings. He raised his hand, and a treasure in the shape of a handbell appeared in his hand. Ding-ling-ling, accompanied by a crisp sound, the torches scattered all over the city, which were set up by him or the phosphorus he sent, all jumped. Chapter 603 Dance Foam Chain Ball. This is the name of this treasure with the appearance of a handbell, although he is also an ancient Red World Demon King. But compared with the Coffin Tailor, whose real name is the Ring of Hades, and who is one of the oldest Red World Demon Kings, Othis, Faragni, who calls himself a treasure hunter, is undoubtedly no match. Whether it is the use of the law of freedom or combat ability, however, there is one thing that Faragni claims to be stronger than that Othis, the number of treasures and the skills of using them. He can imitate Othis's law of freedom key silk thread and can also imitate the air of the two worlds, but imitation is imitation after all, not the same. In many details, he did not imitate, at least, He could not directly activate the key silk thread scattered in every corner of the city. However, he has a way to make up for it. The handbell called ball. The effect of this treasure is resonance. It can make his own power of existence, or objects containing his power of existence, resonate with the shaking of the handbell. When the resonance is intense enough, the power of existence can be rioted, and even detonation can be achieved. Through this handbell, the torches set up in various parts of the city can resonate, and the key threads in them can be forcibly activated. And no one can discover the connection between the effect of this handbell, this ball, and the key thread. This treasure is not well known, and its effect is not strong when used in frontal combat. And now, his plan is about to succeed. Ferragni couldn't hide his excitement and shook the treasure again. Buzz! The fluctuation of the power of existence spread outward, and every torch with a key thread jumped wherever it passed. Like a human heartbeat, the key thread trembled with the jumping of the torch. And at this moment, Shanna finally arrived. Ah! With a powerful shout, Shanna, holding the Zidianzana, slashed at Ferragni with a diagonal knife. "Did you think I didn't notice you, brat?" Almost at the same moment when Shanna swung out the Zidianzana, Ferragni's right fist, which was covered with pure white gloves, had its thumb clenched and opened, and a treasure in the shape of a gold coin hit Shanna's Zidianzana. What? Although he didn't know what it was, he couldn't let it hit him, so he had to chop it. The Red Lotus Odachi, Shanna's free method. She couldn't use Alistair's Calamity Fire freely, so she had to use the Zidianzana in her hand to use fire. And this free method is to inject her own fire into Zidianzana to surround the blade and strengthen the attack of the treasure Zidianzana. With the flames swirling, the Calamity Fire covering Zidianzana formed a swaying blade shape. But, haha, it's really a brat. Along with Ferragni's laughter, the gold coin that had not yet collided with the blade made a clear sound. Ding! A pale blue flame emerged from the high-speed rotating gold coin. As Ferragni pulled with his right hand, the gold coin suddenly turned into a solid golden chain, binding the Zidianzana in Shanna's hand. Then, he shook the handbell in his hand, and the hammer collided with the bell body, and a sound different from the sound of the gold coin but equally clear and pleasant emerged. Around Shanna, a bunch of phosphorus particles with the appearance of ragdolls emerged. These phosphorus particles were hidden in place in a completely motionless manner, and the breath was confused by the free method arranged on the ground. At this moment, the corners of the mouths of these ragdoll-like phosphorus particles suddenly grinned strangely as their bodies expanded. "Not good," Alistair's voice sounded, and black light and shadows like feathers emerged around Shanna. Night Hat, this magical thing that can store a large number of items is not a treasure, but the wings of Alistair. Through the free method, the wings of Alistair appear. However, it was too late. The Night Hat had not yet fully emerged, and the power of the existence of a large number of phosphorus was about to explode. However, at this moment, 3 fire bombs that looked like piles of gravel suddenly broke into the ragdoll. The moment they broke into the formation, the fire bombs instantly turned into countless fine gravel, setting off a sandstorm. At this critical moment, the hot wind blew up and pushed the ragdoll around Shanna away by more than half a meter. Then bang, a terrifying explosion sounded, and the whitish-blue flames wrapped Shanna's body with the explosion of phosphorus. In an instant, the surrounding buildings were shattered. In the explosion that was enough to shake several high-rise buildings, Shanna was suddenly blown away. However, she was not injured. Ferragni squinted his eyes, looking at the long sword tied to the chain, and his eyes swept across the black sphere blown away by the explosion. The black bamboo hat blocked the explosion. HMPH. Feathers. Ferragni pulled with his right hand. He was immune to fire attacks because of the transparent dome on his ring finger, and he was about to pull the Zidianzana into his hand. "Oh my, that's it. It will be difficult for us to deal with it if we lose the weapon." A voice suddenly sounded behind Ferragni. What? Someone actually sneaked behind him? Surprised, Ferragni subconsciously turned his head to look back. However, what appeared in his field of vision was something like a fire bomb. Although it looked like a fire bomb, the swaying flame was actually made of dense sand. The sound also came from here. Well, let me teach you a junior high school physics knowledge. Sound is produced by vibration. With laughter, the firebomb made of gravel instantly split into two halves, attacking his face and Marianu in his arms. Subconsciously, Faragni was about to defend himself. However, at this moment, he suddenly felt the touch of the handbell on his right hand holding the treasure foam chain and the handbell on his left hand. Faragni immediately clenched and raised his hands, using both hands to block the flames made of gravel. However, his left hand clenched without any obstruction, as if nothing touched his left hand at all, and his right hand was empty. It was taken away. This judgment suddenly emerged in Faragni's mind. The next moment, his left hand holding the handbell and his empty right hand easily blocked the flames made of gravel. When he turned his head, he saw a young man with a smile on his face standing in the distance. In his hands, he was holding a large sword and a golden chain. I didn't expect the strategy of making a feint to the east and attacking the west to be so easy to achieve. The keen man stretched out his hand and handed the Zidianzana to Shanna, who came to him, with a face covered in dust and torn clothes due to the explosion. Chapter 604 Goodbye? Yes, goodbye. Although it is a diversionary move, it is also quite troublesome to operate. The mirror sand reflects the characteristics of Faragni's power of existence, disperses the mirror sand, and quietly approaches Faragni during the battle between the two. The moment Shanna loses, she immediately controls a part of the mirror sand to rise from behind Faragni and reflects Alistair's fire. At the same time, another part of the mirror sand that maintains the characteristics of Faragni's power of existence and the aura of Faragni's power is used to rob the two treasures in Faragni's hands. However, with the amount of mirror sand mixed in with Faragni, if Qin Ren robs two at the same time, he has no doubt that he will not be able to grab either one. Therefore, he only used a little bit of the mirror sand to pull the ball on Faragni's left hand. When the ball was pulled, and Faragni's attention was diverted by the mirror sand with the aura of calamity fire, the remaining mirror sand immediately took action and snatched the foam chain and the Zidianzana tied to it. Really, it would fail if it was just a little bit, because it was confused by the aura of the ground. No, it was the roof. So it should be called the ceiling? Whichever one is fine. Shanna didn't notice these phosphorus particles because of the confusion of the aura of the free method set up there, but the Qin people were not so easy to fool. But he didn't remind Shanna after discovering this. The aura was confused and disturbed Shanna, but Faragni would also be affected to some extent. Qin people use the mirror sand to make the mirror sand close to Faragni by using the free method of confusing the aura. However, it was really thrilling to say, even if there was a slight mistake in these micro-operations, the results might be different. If the power is stronger, there is no need to play this kind of extreme tightrope walking operation. It would be so much more comfortable to just use a flat attack to crush the opponent. Humphrey, Shanna, who took over the Zidianzana, did not say any words of thanks. Although she was emotional and a little reckless, she was not stupid. The time when those flame bullets were shot out was before her Zidianzana was tied up. In other words, the other party already knew where the phosphorus was hidden. Since they knew it, why didn't they say it earlier? But Shanna had no time to complain. She held the Zidianzana tightly with both hands, and Alistair's calamity fire poured into the Zidianzana again, forming a blazing red flame sword. Alistair also understood it, but he paid more attention to the free method used by the Qin people. Although from the appearance, it should be the flame bullet that he taught, one of the most basic free methods. The power of existence itself has the characteristics of fire. The free method of the flame bullet is actually to shoot out one's own power of existence. According to the different characteristics of the power of existence of the Red World Demon King contracted by each Fire Mist Warrior, the destructive power and effect of the flame bullet are also different. When Shanna attacks with fire bombs, she can exert the destructive power of the calamity fire, which is stronger than the destructive power of ordinary fire bombs. If it is Wantiao because of the existence power characteristics of the contracted Red World Demon King Dream Crown, the fire bomb will show the characteristics of being difficult to be destroyed, stable, and flexible, but the destructive power is not as good as the calamity fire. In addition, there will be no special effects. The fire bomb exploded, forming a storm, pushing the phosphorus away. This is not the category of characteristics, but another kind of free method, right? The Red World Demon King was puzzled by the firebomb used by the Qin people. However, now is not the time to ask in detail. Such things should be asked after the battle is over. Free Master Boy, have you found anything else? Alistair's steady and serious voice sounded. How should I put it? Qin Ren, who was secretly controlling the mirror sand to continue his covert actions, said while playing with the foam chain in his hand. The handbell in his hand, if I'm not mistaken, should be a link to launch the city-eating and just use fire attacks. Qin Ren's low voice made Shanna and Alistair stunned. In the last battle, Faragni easily blocked Alistair's fire. If he was not mistaken, Alistair could be sure that the reason was the ring on Faragni's hand. Azure, it is not a powerful treasure, but for Alistair, for the disciples whose manifestation of the power of existence is flame, it is a natural enemy. Its effect is to drive away fire. In the range of the barrier formed by azure that covers the body, no matter how powerful the flame is, it cannot invade. If the power of existence is converted into other characteristics such as water or thunder through transformation, azure will have no effect at all. But unfortunately, the characteristic of Alistair's power of existence is a completely specialized flame. He won't, and Shanna won't let the power of existence transform into other characteristics of the law of freedom. If Alistair and Shanna want to defeat Faragni, they can only find a way to deal with the fire-repelling treasure first. Wait a minute. Shanna and Alistair immediately realized what Qin Ren meant. After subconsciously glancing at Qin Ren's hands, Shanna rushed towards Faragni. Ha! Red Lotus Odachi! With an angry shout, Shanna waved the Zidianzana in her hand, waving the Odachi composed of calamity fire covered on Zidianzana, from top to bottom, slashing down towards Faragni's head. How ridiculous! You're just being clever with a torch. You just took the foam chain from me, and you're so arrogant that you think you can beat me? Faragni sneered, and continued to shake the handbell in his hand, making the key thread hidden in the torch vibrate more frequently throughout the city. At the same time, a playing card, although incomplete, but different from the large missing piece in Shanna's memory, was not burnt at all, and only less than 1/5 of it was missing, appeared in his hand. As he swung his right hand, it flew towards Shanna. At the same time, he continued, your flames are completely useless. Around him, there was a faint, star-like shield. It was the fire-repelling barrier released by the ring on his hand. Azure, with a triumphant smile, as if the plan had succeeded, while countless playing cards were flying around, seemingly attacking but actually blocking Shanna's sight, Faragni once again appeared with a pistol in his hand. It was a very old-fashioned revolver, like the ones often seen in Western movies, with no bullets inside and in the cylinder. Faragni raised the pistol and aimed at Shanna. Goodbye, Alistair. No, it should be you, Mr. Hunter. Qin Ren's mouth also curled up into a smile, half-clenched his fist, and his thumb passed over the inside of his middle and index fingers, and a ring bounced up gently. Chapter 605 Successfully blocked. The Fire Mist Warrior must dedicate all of his existence, which was supposed to have a place in the past, present and future, to the Red World Demon King. In return, the Demon King will infuse all of his own power into the empty shell of the contractor. Faragni, who did not realize that what was stolen from him was not one but two treasures, had his finger on the trigger of the revolver-like treasure, with a smile on his face. The contractor who obtains the power of the Red World Demon King in this way can exert the power of the Red World Demon King in this world by relying on his own willpower and personal ability. When entering this body, the Demon King will enter a dormant state, curl up his body, and converge his strength so that his existence can be completely contained by this body. And this happy trigger in my hand can break the dormant state of the Red World Demon King. What will it look like then? Bang! Grand fireworks. At the moment when the last section of the hard voice sounded, when the treasures with the appearance of playing cards were flying all over the sky, blocking Shanna's sight, Faragni pointed his finger at the trigger and pulled it. But, at this moment, his fingers lost consciousness. Something fell. With this judgment in his mind, Faragni glanced subconsciously. There were three fingers covered with white cloth, the same color as his gloves, fingers. Faragni's eyes fell on his right hand holding the happiness trigger. There, only the thumb and the little finger were left, because of the loss of the support of the fingers. The revolver-shaped treasure was tilting. The fingers were cut off. By what? This doubt emerged in Faragni's mind. However, at this time, the Zidenzana, wrapped in the fire of catastrophe, cut through the regular sharp horn. The large sword formed by flames tore through the barrier formed by playing cards. Flame? Where is my azure? The ring on the ring finger has disappeared. With the finger? Faragni looked down, but there was no ring on the ring finger that was cut off at the root. There were only particles of existence power like sand lingering around. With his breath, with the breath of azure, as if he understood something, Faragni looked away a little. The starlight barrier that was supposed to linger around him, like the night sky, was broken up at a speed visible to the naked eye. It broke into small particles of sand. To defend, Faragni tried to draw out another treasure, but Shanna's red lotus sword had already arrived in front of him. Master, Phosphorus Marianu, who had been quietly waiting for the completion of the plan and waiting for the master's order to act at the beginning of the battle, saw the attack coming, without any hesitation, and no longer waiting for the master's order, she shouted, stimulating all the existence power in her body, and rushed towards the red lotus sword. However, the cry from the soul, using himself as a shield to resist the damage for Faragni, was not enough to buy enough time for Faragni to escape or take other actions. When a glass-like treasure appeared in front of Faragni, Zidenzana suddenly slashed it. Because Faragni retreated and dodged, it passed through his shoulder, from the lower left to the upper right, and cut off half of his body directly. The right hand holding the happiness trigger and the left hand holding the ball were both cut off. My Marianu, you, a killing tool. Faragni's breath quickly disappeared. After shouting Phosphorus's name twice in grief, he widened his eyes and cast a hateful look at Shanna. The glass-like treasure lost its power and fell down with Faragni's left and right hands, the handbell and the pistol-like treasure. At this time, Alistair spoke. Do you think that you can kill this child by hitting me with the noble phantasm? I'm really sorry, this child is the noble one I chose, who can contain the full power of my heaven and earth tribulation fire. Hearing Alistair's words, Faragni smiled. No one knew whether it was a mockery of himself or a mockery of not believing Alistair's words, or a bitter smile of helplessness. Or maybe it was a smile to an insignificant existence because of the revolving lantern when dying. Marianu, after making the last call, this elegant noble phantasm hunter, this demon king who attempted to devour the city for the third time, with a nostalgic smile on his lips, turned into a light white flame and dissipated. Even if you are hit, you can't kill Shanna. Qin Ren, who clearly heard this sentence, said to himself in his heart. It seems that he thought too much. Obviously, it is so exaggerated in the animation. But that's right. In the later plot, Shanna launched the ultimate move of breaking the sky and breaking the earth, which made Alistair appear directly, and Shanna did not die. Qin Ren gently stroked the azure in his hand, and the mirror sand wrapped around the azure and penetrated into the azure. While recording the extremely complex free law and structure inside the azure as much as possible, he walked towards Shanna. Is this the mechanism that Faragni used to control the swallowing of the city? Shanna picked up the happiness trigger and the ball from the ground and muttered to Alistair, well, it seems that he can't complete the effect of swallowing the city by himself, but there is still a distortion. Qin Ren came to Shanna's side and said, then, he pointed to the north, there, well, a lot of torches disappeared. About 10%? Alistair carefully sensed it and responded, but the distortion did not happen. Huh? Really? Qin Ren showed a puzzled look. I don't know either. Alistair seemed to be wondering as well. In principle, the city-eating process is to decompose a large number of torches at the same time and cause a chain reaction. But now, the distortion is quite small, Shanna added. If a large-scale distortion occurred, not to mention Alistair, even she would be able to feel it clearly. But now the reaction is much smaller than expected. It is similar to the distortion caused by an ordinary gangster attacking a street and devouring all the humans there. It is not as big as expected, and there is not even a chain reaction. In other words, What went wrong with the arrangement of this free method? Or was it stopped in time and no subsequent situation occurred? Qin Ren continued to ask. Probably like this. Alistair nodded. I see. No one noticed the true meaning of the smile on Qin Ren's mouth with a lucky expression. Chapter 606 Marjorie Lindor. Pretty good. After the battle, the two treasures obtained from Fair Agni were mercilessly taken away by Shanna, and they met with the panting Yuji Sakai. After going to the north where the distortion occurred to check the situation, Shanna and Yuji chose to return, while Qin Ren found an excuse to stay. After confirming that no one else was approaching through the reconnaissance eyes formed by the mirror sand, Qin Ren came to the roof of a tall building and came to this hidden corner. At this location, a replica of Tersra that Qin Ren mapped with the mirror sand was set up. This place that looked empty from the outside world, when Qin Ren took the last step, the surging power of existence and countless blue glows appeared in Qin Ren's vision. Tersra. When the torches trembled under the resonance effect of the ball, Qin Ren controlled the mirror sand he set in the torches and decomposed the torches directly. Then, the mirror sand wrapped the power of existence of the torches and concentrated it at this location. Well, this amount, nearly the weight of 3,000 people. Although it did not reach the highest expectation of 10%, it was quite good compared to the qualified line of 1% and 3%. Greedily, Qin Ren began to devour and absorb these existence forces. The mirror sand surged, pushing and pressing these existence forces into his torch, and into the center of Tersra inside his torch. Compress, compress again. In order to avoid being exposed, Qin Ren tried his best to compress the existence force with increasing concentration. 10 minutes later, Qin Ren finally compressed all these existence forces. There is nothing special, although it is said to be thousands of people, let alone compression. Even if it is spread flat inside Tersra, it cannot be filled. It's just because of the mirror sand. The strength of the mirror sand converted from more or less consumption of existence force is different. If the previous mirror sand was easily burned by the fire of Alistair, the mirror sand converted now can resist for a while. Qin Ren clenched his fists. The amount of his current existence force can be regarded as a relatively weak Red World apostle. Finally, he is not a lamb to be slaughtered. However, this kind of strength is still at the bottom of the world. It can defeat Phosphorus, but it is not enough to deal with the Fire Mist warrior. While recalling the next plot and where he could intervene to gain benefits, Qin Ren took back the mirror sand that imitated Tersra. But in front of him, a person appeared. An old gentleman with a kind appearance, which was not suitable for the horrifying name of Bone Collector. Bone Collector, Rami. The other party was leaning on a cane and standing outside the range set by Tersra. It turns out to be you, young Tersra. When did this guy come here? Qin Ren was doubtful in his heart, and he arranged many eyeliners formed by mirror sand nearby. However, Qin Ren was not surprised at all. Although he was called a Bone Collector, his actual identity was the strongest free master among the Red World apostles. Hello. Qin Ren, who didn't know the other party's intention, just greeted him formally. Don't worry too much. I don't like to cause trouble. Bone Collector Laimi stretched out his right hand and lowered the brim of his hat. I just found that there was a place where a lot of torches disappeared when I was picking up torches, and an isolated space appeared. I came here because of curiosity. I didn't expect that a torch could understand the law of freedom in Tisran. It's really curious. Moreover, this feeling is similar to the law of freedom, but it seems to be different in some way. Did you make any special modifications? Bone Collector Laimi asked. No special modifications were made. I just modified some places to reduce the consumption of the power of existence. Qin Ren responded. Oh, really? It was completely unknown whether he believed it or not. Laimi, who appeared in the appearance of a kind gentleman, turned around and left slowly. Only Qin Ren was left staring at his back and muttered to himself, it's still not enough. Laimi actually approached here quietly. Although Laimi was staying inside a torch and moving as a torch, even if it was a torch, the mirror sand arranged by Qin Ren for surveillance could also be discovered. But the other party easily bypassed the mirror sand he set up for surveillance. The mirror sand he spread on the ground also had no trace of being stepped on. The strongest self-master? Really? Qin Ren, who was determined to be more cautious, chose to leave after staying for a few minutes. On the third day, when Qin Ren, Yuji Sake, and Shanna, who decided to stay in Misaki City to take care of this important treasure because of the importance of the 0-hour lost child, were attending classes at school, a woman with a golden chestnut ponytail wearing a blue wool outfit walked out of the station. This tall and proud beauty wearing glasses was holding a huge book in her hand. The book was about the size of a briefcase, an exaggeratedly large and heavy book, with the thickness of a dictionary. This volume was equivalent to a large book with several book boards stacked together, and there was a special strap for carrying. People didn't think it was a bag with the appearance of a book. At least, most people who saw this exaggerated giant book thought so. However, at this moment, a voice rang out from the giant book, "My beautiful goblet Marjolaine duo, it seems that this city has become someone else's territory." Hearing the voice, the model-like beauty called Marjolaine swung the book with her straps and smashed it on a chair beside her. "Shut up, Maxias." After saying that, she did not have any intention of turning around and leaving because there was already another fire mist warrior in the city. She took a step directly and walked into the city with the sound of her high heels. Ahaha. That's right, my arrogant goblet Marjolaine duo, whether it is a disciple or a fire mist warrior, knock them down one by one and let them taste the serrated kiss. Ahaha. The shrill, high-pitched laughter stopped abruptly when Marjolaine pulled the bandage again and smashed the book on the lamppost. I don't know which waste of the fire mist warrior here is, who actually has so many torches. Marjolaine's eyes swept over the torches passing by and frowned. What does it matter? Isn't this just the best hunting ground to attract that fellow Rami? Ahaha. The loud laughter stopped when the book hit the fire hydrant again. Let's get back to the point. There are too many torches in the city of Marcoses. There is definitely something wrong. I want to investigate in depth. Please help me find a guide to lead the way. Yes, yes, yes. My smart detective Margarine Dowell, it should be young, the kind who will call me beautiful girl when they see me. A big slut. Ah. The conversation between the two ended with the screams of the book. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 607, Mirror Sando Dachi. The holiday season is about to end, with several consecutive festivals stacked up from the end of April to the beginning of May. The holiday can be as long as 16 days, and this year it is 8 days. Except for the service industry such as chefs, almost everyone is relaxing. Tanaka Ita and Sato Kisaku are walking together. Speaking of which, the character of the guy Zua has changed a lot. Sato Kisaku, the handsome boy who can be said to be the most popular in the class, carried a bag and walked towards his home. The place where they lived was the western half of Misaki City, located outside the commercial district, in the area called the old residential area. Although the journey to the school in the new residential area on the east bank of the Manami River is a little farther, it takes nearly 30 minutes, but it is still relatively short. The two crossed the Misaki Bridge, came to the commercial district, and walked towards the station. As long as they crossed the station, Sato Kisaku could return to his own bar, or the original bar. It is closed now. Regarding Sato Kisaku's words, Tanaka Ita, the squinty-eyed boy, thought for a moment. Well, how could Hirai be so rude in the past, and talk back to the teacher every day? But it seems to be better this week. Only a few times. Sato Kisaku held his head with both hands, and the briefcase-like school bag was carried behind him. Well, there must be something wrong at home, a conflict with your parents or something? Tanaka Ita guessed. Who knows? When the word parents was mentioned, Sato Kisaku's face instantly fell. Well, seeing the change in his friend's face, Tanaka Ita, who knew his family situation, laughed and changed the topic. Speaking of Kisaku, why did Takahashi call me Zhao Gang? He knows someone named Zhao Gang. Do you look a lot like that person or have similar habits? Sato Kisaku didn't have much emotion when it came to the issue of parents. However, just as they were discussing, the noise and the dense crowd in front of them made the two of them put down their discussion and walk up to watch the fun. No, Marcoses, they are just a bunch of ordinary people, or torches. There is no qualified one at all. The newly arrived Firefog warrior, Marcoses, complained to the Demon King Marcoses with whom she had contracted. In her hand, the huge thick book was already open at this moment. There was no wind, but the inner pages began to flip, and the parchment pages that looked very old were filled with dense ancient characters. When the crowd of onlookers were talking about performing magic, performance art, advertising, shooting, ventriloquism, and so on, she seemed to be talking to Marcoses without anyone around. Ordinary people can't see it, but the pages of the book are wrapped with layers of purple and blue light. Freedom Law. She is using Freedom Law to search for targets, searching for people who have enough qualifications to adapt to the power of existence and the use of Freedom Law. Oh, it's really troublesome, my nosy lady Marcoses. Can't we just find a few people at random? The book made a sound. Stupid Mark. Old guys are always hard to use. They have poor looks, appearance, and the ability to adapt to changes. It's troublesome to do anything. Besides, people who like me are always easier to use. Margarine Duo frowned. At this time, the perception scene transmitted by Marcoses in her mind has been fixed. The result has come out. 2 little ghosts. At this moment, Qin Ren was also wandering around the commercial district. Alistair knew a lot, but he knew very few free methods. Most of the others needed to borrow the robbery fire to use. Qin Ren also learned. With refer to your free method, I want to adjust the free method that is suitable for me. After Alistair's answer, creating free methods, this is very difficult. Many free masters also spend decades or hundreds of years to create new free methods, but the effect may not be very good if it is just adjusted. He learned some free methods that are exclusive to Alistair. Can't use it? Are you kidding? Mirror sand is not for playing. Qin Ren waved his right hand slightly, and the mirror sands flowed and gathered. Countless gravels made a rustling sound, and lingered in his hand to form a quicksand sword. The blade was extremely smooth, like a mirror, and it looked extremely sharp. It seems that Crocodile's desert scimitar manufacturing skills are still useful. There is a big difference between the power of existence and the original power of Qin Ren. Qin Ren has various skills and manufacturing methods, but because of the power of existence, adjustments need to be made. Mirror Sand Sword. After learning the Red Lotus Sword from Alistair, it took 3 days to adjust the structure and optimize it to a degree that is more compatible with the characteristics of the mirror sand, reflecting the fire of catastrophe. The gravels flowed like broken lenses, lingering with a destructive red color. The mirror sand, which was originally sandy yellow and purple, became like flames, like hot sand after being roasted in the desert, flowing in Qin Ren's hands, full of a fierce breath. Hot sand odachi, let's call it that for now. Qin Ren waved the odachi made of mirror sand, and the urge to shout Haskai emerged in his heart. Then, it was Fair Agnes. On the scorched hot sand, the burning sensation quickly subsided, and it turned back to the purple sand yellow mirror sand. The blade, swaying like a flame, also turned back to a smooth mirror surface. The next moment, the blade of the odachi glowed with a light white glow, and the whole odachi became light and invisible. Fair Agni relied on various treasures to kill many fire mist warriors, but his own strength was not particularly strong. At least, Fair Agni's characteristic is seeing through. He can easily see through the ability and use of treasures. His power of existence, the pale blue flame, can flexibly and easily control the treasure. Simply put, it is similar to the feeling of penetration. If he gets a treasure, he can quickly control it. If this power of existence is reflected and used in the form of a mirror sand sword, Qin Ren waved the sword. Well, if it hits a treasure, you can let your mirror sand penetrate into the opponent's treasure to interfere. It can still be used. Then, Qin Ren lingered in his eyes with the mirror sand, reflecting the characteristics of Fair Agni's power of existence. Although it is not as good as the real person, it has also gained some see-through power. Degraded version. If you just look at it, you can't see through the usage and ability, but you can see whether it is destructive or protective, or attributes. Not bad. While experimenting with the mirror sand sword, Qin Ren picked up a few torches that were about to disappear in half a day. However, at this time, Qin Ren, who was wandering in the commercial district and wandering all the way to the vicinity of the station, also discovered the fluctuations caused by the freedom method used by Margarine Duo, elegy singer Marjolaine Duo and ravaged claw Marcoses. Qin Ren certainly would not forget the second fire mist warrior who appeared in the plot, who could have played the role of the second supporting role. More importantly, I remember that these two seemed to be quite good at free magic, and they chased Lamy all the way. Chapter 608 Spiral Organ. The ravaged minion, Marcoses, the powerful and ancient king of the Red World, warlike, talkative, proficient in various free methods, and attaches great importance to Marjolaine Duo, the eulogy chanter. Marjolaine Duo, the fire mist warrior, a beautiful woman with a great figure. Her whole family was killed by Silver, and she is quite hostile to the Red World. Even a bone picker like Lamy, who can only pick up torches that are about to disappear, is hostile to her and has been hunted for a long time. We have to inform Shanna, although he is a torch on the surface, he still picks up torches, just like Lamy does. Moreover, Alistair was misled by him and thought he was Lamy's work. It is useless whether Lamy himself will come out to clarify. If Marjolaine knew his actions, he would probably be regarded as a disciple and destroyed. After dispelling the mirror sand sword, Qin Ren lingered on his feet with mirror sand and turned away at a very fast speed. In fact, he could have a simpler way to inform Shanna. He had already mastered the method of sending messages. However, using the method of sending messages would cause fluctuations. When he used the mirror sand sword, it seemed that the other party did not notice it, or perhaps he noticed it but did not take it seriously. However, he could not use the method of sending messages with the idea that the other party would not notice it. Anyway, he was not in a hurry, so he could just go slowly. After taking a last look at Marjolaine Duo who was walking towards Satokusako and Tanaka Ita, Qin Ren left. Marcoses, what was that just now? Marjolaine Duo suddenly stopped. Yes, that's right, the method of sending messages just now seemed to be used by the torch. If I'm not mistaken, that method of sending messages should be the move of the guy Heaven and Earth Tribulation Fire, right? How could it be used by the flame? Are you sure it's the method of sending messages of Heaven and Earth Tribulation Fire? Marjolaine Duo frowned. Well, it feels like it, but it seems that there are also some differences. The voice of the Demon King Marjolaine Duo came from the unfolded hardcover thick book. Stupid Marco. If you are not sure, don't say it. But there must be something wrong with that torch. I haven't seen many torches that can use the law of freedom since John. After all, using the power of existence requires the power of existence. Without disciples or fire mist warriors to share the power of existence with the torch's own power of existence can't use many laws of freedom. Maybe someone who is related to the flame hair burning eyes shared the power of existence with him so that he can maintain his existence and taught him the law of freedom or something. After answering, Margarine came to Tanaka Ita and Sato. You guys, when Satokusako and Tanaka Ita were half threatened and half voluntarily became Margarine Duo's guides, Qin Ren also found that he had returned home with Sakai Yuji and started training. It seems that because he is also a torch but much stronger, and he seems to be very useless, Yuji Sakai also asked Shanna and Alistair to train. When Qin Ren came to Sakai's house, Shanna was using a clothesline as a weapon to train Sakai Yuji. You have to open your eyes. How can you not dare to open your eyes when the enemy attacks? Shanna scolded Yuji Sakai rudely, who fell to the ground, holding his head and muttering in pain. Although that's what you say, how can such a thing be done in an instant? Don't make excuses. Shanna waved the clothesline and hit the ground. Yuji Sakai's mother, Chigusa Sake, was standing aside, watching this exercise with a chuckle. When Qin Ren came nearby, Yuji Sakai immediately noticed it and raised his head to look in the direction of Qin Ren. Alistair, who was a step slower than him, also noticed Qin Ren's arrival. You're really nervous. You've been training all the time, Qin Ren said when he saw the two of them, then turned and greeted Yuji Sakai's mother, Aunt Sake. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Kotakahashi. Kotakahashi, Qin Ren muttered to himself, then continued, can I borrow Sakai for a while? Shanna too. Oh, are you going out to play? Of course. Sakai Chigusa responded with a smile, turned to look at Yuji Sake. Yuji, If you don't come back for dinner, remember to contact family. Shanna too. Don't play too late. Yes, I know, the two responded and left the Sakai family's yard together. When the two of them walked out and confirmed that they were out of the range where Chigusa could hear, Alistair asked, "What happened?" "The young master? Well, when I was cleaning the torches, a fire mist warrior with a large hardcover book appeared at the commercial district station." Qin Ren continued, "If I'm not mistaken, it's probably the eulogy chanter, because he picked up the torch and chased her all the way to Misaki City. It's really troublesome." Qin Ren played word games again. He was talking about Lamy being chased by the other party. But in Alistair's understanding, he and Shanna didn't mention the matter of the eulogy chanter, but the young master knew about it. And even Alistair didn't know that Lamy was chased by the eulogy chanter. This further deepened the connection between the other party and Lamy, and the other party was Lamy's work. "The eulogy chanter? Is it true that she is chasing Lamy?" Alistair asked. "Yes, the eulogy chanter has been chasing her," Qin Ren said her seemingly inadvertently. "The old man's appearance and name of the bone collector Lamy are just to reduce consumption and avoid trouble. His real identity is actually Spiral Organ Ren Nancy, a female apprentice. Because of his superb attainments in the law of freedom, he was captured and forcibly merged with a treasure used for imprisonment, suppressing his consciousness. Little night bird. This is the name of the spiral organ when it is a treasure. Many people know the spiral organ, but there are very few people who know that the spiral organ is the bone collector Lamy. Alistair is one of them, because his previous generation, the first generation of contractors, let the other party go. Alistair was able to know, when the other party acted as the bone collector Lamy, over time, the two became old friends. Does the young master in front of him know that the bone collector Lamy is the spiral organ? Alistair is a little confused. But Alistair did not mean to ask about the specific relationship. We have to protect Lamy. At this time, Yuji Sake, who didn't understand the situation, raised his hand and asked, Lamy is a apprentice? Chapter 609, Flaming Eyes vs. Eulogy Singer. After Yuji Sakai asked, Alistair also explained the harmlessness of Lamy. And Lamy collected a lot of existence power in this way, but this existence power, he did not absorb the existence power of humans, but picked up torches. Alistair's voice sounded. Yes, Qin Ren continued. Lamy said that the reason he collected the existence power was to repair something. Repair? Yuji Sakai showed a puzzled look. Yes, a long time ago, a human made a unique gift for Lamy, but before Lamy could see it, it was damaged and could never be repaired. Qin Ren thought, recalling the setting of Lamy in Shakugan no Shanna. It seems to be called Donna or something. Anyway, it was a gift from that human, and Lamy wanted to see it with his own eyes and confirm it in person. It seemed to be a painting. Because Lamy would not come to clarify, Qin Ren did not have any burden when explaining, or better, the more he showed his understanding of Lamy, the deeper his relationship with Lamy would appear. But I'm not sure whether that human died or was devoured by other disciples, and his painting was not delivered to Lamy. And Lamy's goal was to collect the power of existence by picking up torches and activating the law of freedom to repair the painting. Alistair, is it true? Is this possible? After listening to Qin Ren's explanation, Shanna asked Alistair for confirmation. Well, it should be someone called Donut. Lamy was imprisoned at that time. Alistair hummed, confirming the first half of the inquiry. As for the second half, I have never heard of this kind of free method, but the spiral organ may be able to do it. After Alistair and Qin Ren's explanation, Sakayuji also understood that Lamy was a harmless disciple who only picked up the torches that were about to disappear. Although he was also a torch, the good old man expressed his understanding of Lamy's actions. Then, we need to help Lamy. If we attack the apostles indiscriminately, there is no difference between the behavior of the disciples. More importantly, Alistair continued, Lamy started collecting the power of existence hundreds of years ago, and he did not absorb it, but used a special free method to preserve it. If Lamy is destroyed, this huge power of existence will be released. At that time, because of the emergence of a huge power of existence, it is unknown what kind of distortion will be caused. After making a decision, The three set off and headed towards the commercial district where Margarine Duo was. Soon, Shanna and the others found Margarine Duo. At the same time, they also saw Sato Kusako and Tanaka Ida beside him. Hirai, Sake, Takahashi, why are you here? Shanna did not intend to explain to the two. She stared at Margarine Duo opposite her. Elegy chanter, what are you two doing here? Shanna's tone was impolite, without any greeting, or rather, it was not a relationship that needed greetings. Facing Shanna's aggressive gaze, Margarine sneered and responded without showing weakness. Huh? You ignorant little girl, you didn't even say a greeting? Huh? Why should I be with you? While the two Fire Mist warriors were confronting each other, Marcoses also greeted Alistair. Hey, it's been a long time since we last met. Danarang Jiuo, is this kid the killer with flaming hair and burning eyes? In the thick book called Grammar as a separated tool for expressing will, or as a divine weapon, ultramarine flames gushed out. Rami is harmless. You know what the consequences of destroying him are, right? Alistair responded with a deep voice from the pendant on Shanna's chest. Ha ha ha. I don't care about that. How can there be harmless disciples? Whether it was the laughing Marcoses or the stubborn Marjolaine who could be felt just by looking at her, Alistair couldn't help but sigh. As expected, these two guys are unreasonable. There is nothing to talk about. Disciples must be destroyed. This is the responsibility of the Fire Mist warriors. Marjolaine Du raised her ponytail, and flames surged from the ends of her hair and her body. Flaming hair and burning eyes. Since you come with naked hostility, you can't just flee without a fight, right? Seal it. The power that was like a transparent belt with strange spells formed concentric circles. This ring, like a magic circle, quickly expanded to the surroundings. Qin Ren, Yuji Sake, Kusaku Sato, and Ita Tanaka were also included. HMPH, I don't have time to help you isolate the influence of the seal this time. We'll talk about it later when we have a chance, Margarine said to the two new brothers who were trapped in the stagnation state by the seal. Then, her eyes fell on Yuji Sakai and Qin Ren. I see, two Mistis, and Mistis with precious treasures. Margarine Duo, who was familiar with the relationship between the law of restraint, treasures, and seals, immediately made a judgment, but she didn't pay attention to the two people's thoughts. The treasure may be important to the disciples, but for the Fire Mist warriors who borrowed power from the Red World Demon King, unless they are particularly precious and powerful, they don't mean much to the Fire Mist warriors. Hey, kid, you don't want to hurt ordinary people, right? Then find a place. While making a sound, Margarine Duo stepped on the floating giant book and flew away from the original place. And Shanna immediately chased after him. Takahashi, let's go too. Seeing the two flying away, Yuji Sakai also wanted to chase after them. No, you go over there. Shanna needs you, not me. Although the plot development has changed a bit because of Qin Ren's existence, Shanna still lives in Yuji's house because of the importance of the lost child at midnight, and the two of them collide with feelings that have not yet been made clear. I'll just watch here. I can't help. If the battle between the two Fire Mist warriors involves other places, I can also do some emergency treatment. Oh, okay. Qin Ren looked at Yuji Sakai, who was sent away by him, and chased after Shanna and Majanglindo, and the corners of his mouth curled slightly. Then, he turned his eyes away. If I remember correctly, the next plot should be that Aizen and his orthopedic siblings came to Misaki City accompanied by General Zudinen, and then the old man adjusted the rate. The professor intervened, and by the way, Wilhelmina appeared in the middle. Well, Aizen and Aizen's Cradle Garden can be used. Take the existence power absorbed by the Cradle Garden, and it should be able to increase the strength to that of an ordinary disciple, right? Although I can't get the existence power of Theragni, the Red World Demon King, but I was too weak at that time, so there was no way. But the existence power of the orthopedic siblings, I will definitely take it. If I don't devour the existence power of humans, I will devour the existence power of the Red World Apostles. The Fire Mist warriors will have no reason to attack me, right? Qin Ren touched his chin, and a large amount of mirror sand gushed out from the torch in his body, dispersed, and flew in all directions, towards the people who were in a stagnant state because of the seal. Using the characteristics of Fair Agni's existence power, the Cradle Garden will belong to me from now on. Chapter 610, Sand Soldiers appear. The swaying hair scattered fire powder and the pupils burned red. The night hat flew behind her and Shanna pulled out a sharp white blade from it. The blade of the Zidianzana reflected an intimidating silver light. Shanna waved the Zidianzana and pointed it at Margarine. At this time, Alistair tried to persuade again. Rami is special, he won't. Special, won't? As if stimulated by Alistair's repeated words, Margarine Duo's beautiful face twisted into a fierce expression, and she roared. It just happens that he doesn't dare to act trashly now because of his own personal reasons. Who knows what he will do with the stored power of existence one day. Just like most of the other Fire Mist warriors have a blood feud with the disciples, Margarine Duo, whose relatives and friends were killed by the Red World disciples, has no mercy on the disciples. Disciples who cannot sign a contract with the Fire Mist warrior to seal themselves in human bodies, not devour the power of human existence, and return to the Red World with the death of the Fire Mist warrior, but show their true bodies and walk around the world, are all enemies. Kill them all, 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 kill them all. The voice gradually became sharper, and ultramarine flames surged on Margarine's body. Shanna could feel that the murderous intent lingering in the boiling battle will was real, and she was regarded as an enemy to be eliminated by the other party. If you want to escape, run away quickly with your tail between your legs, little ghost. Ha 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 ha. Marcoses has synchronized with Margarine Duo's battle will, and laughed wildly like a beast's roar. Don't echo other people's hatred and talk nonsense, you battle maniac. Alistair reprimanded Marcoses for his wild laughter. Since you don't attack first, then we will do it. With Marcoses's roar full of battle will, Margarine rushed towards Shanna. Moreover, the ultramarine flames lingering around her body caused her body to change. Fur, the fur of a wild beast. Fangs, sharp teeth, sharp claws, ears. In an instant, Majonglin turned into a huge wild beast. Wolf. The appearance of the giant beast made Shanna suspect this. However, the thick waist and the posture of a human standing up looked like a bear. Bear? Wolf? Shanna didn't know, but it didn't matter. Shanna waved the Zidanzana in her hand. The red lotus greatsword. The narrow flames lingered around the blade, forming a huge fire sword. As Shanna's arm moved, it drew a narrow and long trajectory in the air, and met the claws of the giant beast that Majonglin transformed into. At the same time, Qin Ren methodically controlled his mirror sand and infiltrated into the bodies of those ordinary people. Reflect, record. Qin Ren muttered to himself. This was the ability of the mirror sand that was transformed by the power fragments of the demon god Dantalon. So, what will happen if this process is applied to other people? Mapping the characteristics of one's own power of existence onto other people. Assimilation, or contamination, making the target's power of existence close to him. Substitute. If the enemy wants to find him, then as long as Qin activates the mirror sand hidden in these people's bodies, he can have countless substitutes that confuse perception. However, the goal Qin wants to achieve is to directly decompose the power of existence of ordinary people eroded by the mirror sand, then absorb and devour it, and transform it into mirror sand. But it doesn't work. The process of absorption and transformation must be completed by relying on the power fragments of the Duke of Mirror lingering around the Millennium Wisdom Wheel. He is now a host, sealed on the Millennium Wisdom Wheel, which is actually equivalent to the spirit of the Millennium Wisdom Wheel. The power fragments of the Duke of Mirror are also attached to, or fixed on, the Millennium Wisdom Wheel together with his own will. If you want to make new mirror sand, you must let the raw materials contact the fragments. It is impossible to make mirror sand outside the body. To create mirror sand, you need to absorb the power of existence or some other power into your body and transform it. Although it is a helpless thing, I still want to do it, Qin Ren thought. Weave the law of freedom and drive the target embedded with mirror sand as a puppet. This is also a good way. However, he doesn't know this kind of law of freedom yet. The power of existence is completely different from the mana used by his original body. Although he learned the knowledge of the law of freedom from Alistair, he can only follow it or transform it locally, that is, adjust it, and adjust it to make a law of freedom suitable for his own use through fine-tuning. He doesn't know the law of freedom that he hasn't learned. He can do it from 1 to 1.1, but it's difficult to go from 0 to 1. For this reason, the only way Qin Ren can do now is to use the mirror sand to emit or to disguise or monitor. But, although you can't turn people into your puppets, you can make your own puppets. Sand soldiers appear. Qin Ren snapped his fingers lightly, and the flowing mirror sand gathered around him. A yellow sand soldier holding a spear appeared beside him. Well, they look similar, but the consumption is quite large. It's just that the appearance is a bit too conspicuous, and it is formed by the mirror sand transformed from the power of existence. In essence, it is still the power of existence. The firefog warriors and disciples can sense it. And if it is physical damage, the sand soldiers composed of mirror sand can be reorganized again under his will after being dispersed, and they are basically immune to physical damage. But the attacks of the firefog warriors and disciples are divided into a type, which is magic attack or even real damage, not physical damage. But it doesn't matter, as long as the mirror sand that makes up the sand soldiers is not completely destroyed. The remaining mirror sand can be reorganized into sand soldiers after replenishment. Still immortal. Torch, Phosphorus, Disciple, Demon King, Demon God. Shakugan no Shana. If this world must be divided into levels, it is divided into these 5 levels according to quantity. The amount of my current power of existence is equivalent to that of a disciple. The sand soldier created. Is it almost equivalent to a phosphorus? But it depends on what kind of phosphorus it is. The phosphorus created by Faragni has more existence force than the mirror sand of his sand soldiers. However, Qin Ren narrowed his eyes. His sight was only on the long spear in the sand soldier's right hand disintegrating, reorganizing again, and then reorganizing into a large sword. Mirror sand large sword. Then, reflecting, the blade that was as smooth as a mirror surface instantly floated like a flame. Hot sand large sword. You can use this to do a lot of things, Qin Ren said to himself while stroking his chin with his right hand. Chapter 611 Attempt. Although he's a little brat, his reaction isn't too bad, but it's still not enough. When Margarine Duo took over the conversation, the bloated beast head that looked like a wolf or a bear suddenly opened. Boom. With a boom, ultramarine, purple and blue fire of existence burst out from it. Damn it. Shanna, who was in the air and could hardly dodge, waved her right hand, and the surging flame surged out with the swing of Zidian Zana. The blazing red fire collided with the ultramarine fire. In the impact again, Shanna barely dodged the ultramarine fire that swept in like a wave. However, under the impact, Shanna's body seemed to be thrown down by a doll, and fell to the ground. Bang! The hot ground where smoke and water vapor continued to boil shattered, and the floor interwoven with cement and steel bars shattered and splashed. Margarine Duo glanced at the stone slabs next to her that were creaking because of the high heat caused by the fire. Is this the Slayer with flaming hair and burning eyes? He's just a brat who can't even control the flames. Margarine Duo dispersed the flame coat that the tortured claw Marcosas had revealed, and turned around. The artifact Grimmer condensed by Marcosa's power and manifested as the will also appeared again. Just use these 3. After a casual glance, Margarine Duo picked a torch, and shook her fingers. The torch was decomposed into the power of existence, which flowed to the surroundings and used as fuel to activate the law of freedom, repairing the surrounding areas destroyed by the battle, and repairing the people who were killed because of the involvement in the battle. In the seal, unless they are decomposed into the power of existence, in the seal, those who are affected by the seal can be restored. In the law of freedom, Alistair and Shanna are just half-baked compared to Margarine and the others, while Marcosas, who is proficient in the law of freedom, only used 3 torches to repair this area. If it is Shanna, it may take dozens of torches, and in order to obtain the power of existence of dozens of torches, it is common to decompose a complete human. After all, it is difficult to gather dozens of torches, but the power of existence in a complete human is hundreds to thousands of times that of ordinary torches. When the repair was completed, Margarine Duo stepped on the giant book and floated down from the roof. When she landed in front of Satokusako and Tanaka Ita, she unlocked the seal. When she unlocked it, Her eyes wandered around. Both mistis are gone. Forget it. I still want to open it to see what treasure it is. My curious cat Margarine duo. Yo, you can't open mistis. Casually when she said this, Marco's voice sounded immediately. Although the battle was very fierce, it actually took only 5 minutes. Who? Shanna. Who? Shanna. Who? When Yuji Sakai ran breathlessly to the rooftop of the tall building where Majonglin and Shanna were fighting, it was already 3 minutes after the seal was lifted. However, when he reached the rooftop, he saw Shanna in a mess. Her long hair was a mess, her cheeks seemed to be covered with coal dust, her clothes were tattered, and she was squatting on the ground, curled up. Lost? Yuji Sakai looked at her and this thought came to his mind. But when he stepped forward to comfort her, he was stopped by Shanna. Don't come over. Hearing the scolding, Yuji Sakai stopped immediately. Why stop talking nonsense? Shanna had no intention of explaining at all. She stood up, trying to support her bruised body, and stared at Yuji Sakai with a look that was not scorching but revealed a strong emotion like a raging fire. It's all your fault. It's all your fault. You made me a mess. After saying that, she supported her body and left directly from the corridor, leaving Yuji Sakai with a confused look. What's going on? Did I do something? At this point, he seemed to remember something and took out a pendant from his collar. It was a ring hung around the neck with a metal chain. Deep blue, a treasure that can defend against fire. Is it because I took this that she lost the battle? But this is what she gave me. Yuji Sakai looked at the ring in confusion. At this moment, a voice sounded behind him, making him turn his head. Takahashi, where did you get up from? Me? Qin Ren, with his hands in his pockets, pulled out his right hand and pointed to another building next to him. Jump over from over there. Sakai Yuji turned his head and looked at the side. This distance is dozens of meters. Sakai Yuji widened his eyes. The fire mist warrior can do it easily. So can we. Just use the power of existence. Qin Ren shrugged his shoulders. As long as the power of existence is concentrated in the legs and strengthened, it can be done. If it's just a matter of jumping a few dozen meters, the torch can do it. Really? Sakai Yuji, who had just started training in combat-related matters, had not learned how to use the power of existence. Then, Qin Ren teased. What's wrong? Why don't you catch up? Your girlfriend needs comfort. Why don't you go? What girlfriend? We are not that kind of relationship. Sakai Yuji smiled awkwardly, his face slightly gloomy. I'm just a torch, a mistis. Others don't know, but you should know that she only protects me because I am mistis of 0 hour lost. Well, the personalities of these two people are really troublesome. The so-called tsundere ruins life. Qin Ren couldn't help but shake his head in his heart, and sat down on the edge of the roof without any protection, looking at the cars moving like insects on the street below, and asked, Then what do you think of Shanna? What do you think of Shanna? Hearing the question, Sakai Yuji was slightly stunned. Strong, powerful and admirable. I don't want to drag her down. I also need to become stronger. I don't want to be protected unilaterally. At least don't drag her down. Although, maybe, probably, he has a good impression of Shanna. Sakai Yuji is very self-aware. He is just a weak torch who needs protection. What do you like? You are really troublesome. Qin Ren couldn't help but touch his head. I don't want to be a coal man or a matchmaker. In short, in my opinion, Shanna should have feelings for you. Qin Ren said to Yuji Sakai. If he realized his feelings for Shanna earlier, would he have come into contact with the ritual snake earlier in the future? That's it for now. I'm not like you who can recover automatically. I have to collect the power of existence to survive this week. After saying that, Qin Ren ignored Yuji who was confused, turned around and jumped up, flying to another building. Chapter 612, Orthopedic brothers and sisters love each other. It came faster than Qin Ren expected. On the second day after Shanna lost to Majonglin, Qin Ren sensed that the mirror sand he had laid, which was prepared to be mixed into the bodies of ordinary people as a substitute for the generation of breath, had lost contact. No, to be precise, Qin Ren could not feel it. He did not feel that the mirror sand was destroyed. Cradle Garden, the younger sister of the Red World Apostle Iran's siblings, or the Red World Apostle Iran Talia who claimed to be the younger sister. It should be a treasure, right? As for the treasure, it seems to be an automy, which is a music box. Qin Ren didn't remember it clearly, he only remembered this term, but he didn't know if this name corresponds to the treasure. In short, the cradle garden can conceal the breath of the orthopedic siblings, or can it conceal the breath of the power of existence within the cradle garden? Qin Ren couldn't be sure of this, but he didn't want to get close to confirm it in person. After all, Iran and his brother and sister are not to be confused. Although these two are quite difficult to deal with, they are not the Red World Demon King. For the Qin people who know the plot and probably know the means to crack them, they can still break through. But the general next to them, Thousand Changes Zayudinin, one of the three pillars of the masquerade, the organization of the Red World Apostles, is a strong man second only to the three gods of the Red World. Even if the Qin people use more tricks, the possibility of winning by confronting Zayudinin head-on is too small. The best result of using tricks is to escape and survive. If it were Maqianglin, this General Zayudinin could be dealt with. But the chance of winning is about 46 or 37, Maqianglin 4 or 3. As for Shanna, although her contractor is the judgment of one of the three gods of the Red World, Alistair, the fire of heaven and earth, but Alistair is sleeping in Shanna's body, and there is also the powerful treasure Obsidian Zana, but Shanna's combat power depends largely on Shanna's own ability. Shanna couldn't even beat Margarine, let alone Zudinin. Even if Margarine and Shanna came together, Zudinin could still fight in a doubles match. Qin Ren was no longer the demon god who would destroy the country and the world at will. He didn't want to die, but he still had to confirm it. Let's go to the abandoned department store first. Although the glass jar couldn't show the location of the disciples and the firefog warriors, the torches could be seen. That's where the torch was born. After confirming the location, use the conventional physical means of humans that don't use the power of existence to confirm the location. The telescope I bought before can be used. In the northwest of Misaki City, near a building outside the airport, a blond boy who looked to be about 14 or 15 years old, wearing a brown suit, and a delicate girl of the same age, wearing a pink Lolita dress, like a doll, were walking together. Next to them was a tall man in a brown and black suit, wearing sunglasses on his face, and his silver-gray hair was combed into a big back on his head. The boy and girl were hugging each other as if no one was around, and they were French kissing each other. The power of existence was transferred from the boy's mouth to the girl's mouth. Seeing the two of them touching each other on the street, and about to get into a passionate fight, and there was no doubt that the next step would be a struggle for love, the man said, "Aren't you going to find Zidian Zana? You are still doing this kind of thing. You are worthy of being called doting embrace." Iran Hitilia. Hearing this, the girl loosened her hands that were holding her beloved brother's cheeks, and turned to the man with a beautiful face that would make both men and women's hearts skip a beat. "Zayudinin, do you have any doubts about the love between me and my elder brother?" "No, no. Your love is quite passionate." Zayudinin did not leave his hands in his trouser pockets, but just shrugged his shoulders. "Humphrey," Tilia snorted. The characteristic of her power of existence is a power close to charm. Just standing there would make ordinary people fall into obsession. Under the gaze of passers-by who turned their eyes because of her and the intense kiss scene, Tilia let go of her brother Love him Sarat and said, "It's not easy to track him down here." At this time, the young man said, "Tilia, let's go find Zidian Zana. I want Zidian Zana," like a child who wants a new toy. Hearing his words, Tilia immediately showed a doting and loving expression. "Yes brother, let's go find the firefog warrior who holds Zidian Zana and get Zidian Zana." In the past few years, there has been a legend that a firefog warrior stole the treasure Zidian Zana of the most difficult Mistis, the monster torched Anmuiji, and named himself after the sword of the original body, and rampaged in the area near East Asia. Who is the contracted person? The two siblings don't know, and Zayudinin doesn't know either, because none of the Red World disciples who directly encountered them survived. The news came from the Red World who was fighting with other Fire Mist warriors. The rumors were basically all speculation, and it can only be confirmed that the other party is a very difficult enemy. I really don't know if they are brother and sister or mother and son. Zayudinin, who was standing aside, watched all this with his eyes behind his sunglasses and sneered in his heart. Then, he turned his eyes to the surroundings. Because of the protection of the cradle garden of the treasure eagle, the breadth of him and Iran was obscured, and it was difficult to radiate perception outward. But as long as you want it wholeheartedly, can you track the location of the target? Desire smell is an interesting trait and an interesting freedom. Zayudin tapped the cigarette box he took out from his chest pocket with his fingers and took out one of the cigarettes. The fingertips that pointed upwards naturally ignited a turbid purple flame and lit the cigarette. It's just that even I can't control it freely. Zayudin sighed. If it can be controlled freely, it will be very useful for the plan of the masquerade. But unfortunately, if it can't be controlled, it's useless. Moreover, single-mindedness, such a focused desire, also needs a lot of adjustment to achieve. Zayudin puffed out smoke, his eyes wandering outside. However, no one can find the hidden disciples and phosphorus through the freedom of this treasure. This is somewhat useful. Zayudin's eyes swept over the two people under his sunglasses. Lamy, who was picking up torches in Misaki City, silently raised his head, preserved the torch he had just picked up with the freedom method, and turned to leave the city. At the same time, Makayanglin, Satokusaku and Tanaka's two younger brothers were also taking action. Chapter 613, The Three Gods of the Red World. The old Ida department store. Standing on the roof of this abandoned building, Qin Ren looked around. The old Ida department store is an abandoned building, which is equivalent to the center of Misaki City. It seems that the structure is unstable due to the shoddy work in material casting and construction, and even people died because of it. After the leader of the development company bowed and apologized, the building was abandoned. This building, which was supposed to be the original commercial center of Misaki City's commercial district, was abandoned. Qin Ren stood on tiptoe and looked around at the top of the old Ida department store. There were tall buildings everywhere. However, this was not what he cared about. He sensed the surroundings and tried to find the breath of Margarine Duo's existence, but he didn't feel it. If Margarine Duo, the eulogy chanter, did not actively cover up her breath, she should not been nearby. Qin Ren came here, of course, for a purpose. Faragni, the Red World Demon King who collected various treasures, probably put down the glass jar in this building. Glass jar. In the world view of Shakugan no Shana, one of the three gods of the Crimson World, and the existence of the same god of the Crimson World as Alistair. His real name is Sacrificial Snake. Heaven and Earth Fire Alistair. Awakening Howling Song Shahar. Sacrificial Snake Fuxi. In ancient times, the sacrificial snake used the name Fuxi. As for who Fuxi is, the Qin people, as people of the Celestial Empire, naturally know it. Well, anyway, just like other works, just pull out a god's name from the mythology of any country and put it on the character, which is a common operation. Heaven and Earth Fire Alistair. The name Alistair, the Qin people with knowledge proficiency, related to desert areas, also know the source. If I am right, it should be a seraph in charge of anger and Christian legends. The name is Alistair. The fact that Alistair's night hat is made of feathers can also indirectly prove the prototype. After all, if there are feathers, if it is not a bird or a demon, then you can only look for it in the angel. But it seems that there is also a revenge spirit in Greek mythology that hunts criminals with this name. Judging from the ability, are they both prototypes? Are they a combination of two mythological characters with the same name? Qin Ren is not familiar with Awakening Yingxiao Shahar, and the original animation seems to have only mentioned it in one sentence, but from the name, Qin Ren can associate it with a god of morning glow with a similar name in Palestinian mythology, but these are not important. This glass jar is the item of the sacrificial snake. It is a treasure made to monitor the Great Binding Chain. The Great Binding Chain is the name of the city that the sacrificial snake plans to build for the Red World Apostles. 129 cities and 4 planes are encircled with the law of freedom. Everything that exists within the range is enclosed and sealed with the power of the existence of the offerings collected by hunting nearby, and it is tightened and reinforced to prevent it from dispersing, becoming an independent enclosure that circulates on its own. In this way, the Red World Apostles do not need to look for sparse humans in the world, nor do they need to spend the effort of knowing, and can exert their power as they please. At the same time, the distortion generated will also maintain its total balance within the internal range. In short, it means to enclose the land and be independent, and to isolate the fence to create a small ecosystem. This treasure is like a surveillance camera. After the ritual snake was sealed, it changed hands several times and fell into the hands of Faragni, a treasure hunter. Although he could not see the fire mist warriors and disciples, he could observe the flow of the power of existence and the location of the torch. Although Qin Ren had watched the animation, it was a long time ago, and Qin Ren could not remember the details of this old show. It was just based on the idea that Faragni needs to observe the entire city to launch the city eating, so it should be easier to find it near the center. After Shanna defeated Faragni, he searched for several days before finding it. Rubbing his wrists, Qin Ren put his hands in his trouser pockets and prepared to go down the stairs on the top floor from top to bottom. As the torch inside his body swayed, mirror sand transformed from the power of existence gushed out from all parts of his body. The dense quicksand turned into his eyes with his will and flew to each floor. Finally, he was on the first floor, which was originally a toy store, but now it was abandoned and filled with a small mountain of broken toys and sundries that various merchants did not want. The mirror sand swam among the debris that covered the entire floor without any hindrance. In the center of the garbage mountain, following the unique smell, an empty area was found. There was no garbage or toys piled up in the empty area. In the center, there was a huge thing that looked like a real estate sand table, with the power of existence wrapped around his feet. The mirror sand spun around his body. Qin Ren jumped lightly and jumped directly into this place. He looked at the sand table carefully. Yes, it was the scene of Misaki City. The huge sand table that released a deep blue light to the surroundings was a miniature landscape of the entire Misaki City. Qin Ren narrowed his eyes slightly and continued to transform the power of existence into mirror sand to wrap this huge sand table. Reflection. The smooth mirror sand instantly turned white. The characteristics of Faragni's power of existence. The mirror sand that originally wrapped the sand table but was difficult to penetrated a little, but that was all. Should I say that he is worthy of being the red god who holds the power of creation? It is really difficult to erode and penetrate the things he made. After calculating that it would take several days of continuous sleepless infiltration, Qin Ren gave up the idea of invading the interior of the treasure. However, he could also feel that this huge sand table was not the main body of the treasure. It was something projected after the treasure was activated, similar to the law of freedom and also like a treasure. The main body should not be very large. Qin Ren carefully sensed the power that spread throughout the sand table like leaf veins, and observed the positions of the torches in various parts of the miniature model. No action. Qin Ren did not immediately see the torch suddenly appear somewhere. Perhaps the other party did not take any action for the time being because he was resting or rushing on the road. In this case, Qin Ren did not want to stand there stupidly. His mirror sand continued to penetrate into the treasure, trying to record the law of freedom that constructed this glass altar. And, if there is the power of the existence of the remaining sacrificial snake in this treasure, then he can record it by the way. Having already recorded the destruction trait of Alistair's fire of calamity, wouldn't it be wonderful to record the creation trait of the sacrificial snake? After all, as the power fragment of the Duke of Mirror, the mirror sand has the ability to copy and imitate, and its compatibility with the trait of creation is quite high. However, just as he was trying to infiltrate and observe the position of the torch, a breath approached the abandoned department store. Qin Ren immediately stopped his action and turned his head to the outside. Majonglin, if you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 614. A Treacherous Attack. You came at a really bad time. Although Qin Ren knew that in the animation, Shanna did not find the glass jar immediately, and did not even know that it was here at first, and the person who found the glass jar immediately was the eulogy chanter Marjolaine duo, but Qin Ren really did not expect that he would run into the other party at the same time. Fortunately, He had made preparations for monitoring and early warning in advance just in case, otherwise the other party's appearance would not be a fun thing. However, the things he used for monitoring and early warning would definitely be discovered by Marjolaine. After all, the level gap of the free law was there. In this case, Qin Ren waved his right hand, and the mirror sand flowed out with his will, condensing in front of him into a pseudo-phosphorus that looked similar to Faragni's ragdoll phosphorus. And then, reflection. The pseudo-phosphorus composed of smooth mirror sand was white, revealing Faragni's aura. Not only this pseudo-phosphorus, but also the other mirror sands that were spread outside the building as monitoring and early warning also immediately reflected the characteristics of Faragni's existence. After doing all this, Qin Ren immediately turned around and walked towards the stairs to other floors. As he walked, Qin Ren pumped the power of existence into the treasure tessera in his body. An invisible barrier that could conceal the breath was spread out with him as the center. Stepping on the book-shaped artifact of will of the ravaged minion Marcoses, Margarine Duo flew over the commercial street as if no one was around. The reason why she flew in the sky without anyone noticing was that she could conceal the power of existence and perform the free method that ordinary people could ignore. This location is near the center of Misaki City. It's the fastest to perform the free method here to find that guy Lamy. With her hands folded across her chest, Margarine Duo stepped on the book and flew to the top of the abandoned department store. But at this moment, Marcoses suddenly said, "Hey, my tired detective Margarine Duo. There seems to be something nearby." "Little thing?" Hearing the words of the contract demon king, Margarine Duo's face showed some doubts. After stopping at the rooftop, she waved her hands and the huge book suddenly turned the pages. "Jackie will have a new owner. He can only earn 1 cent a day, because he can't be faster." The sentence from a nursery rhyme came out of Margarine's mouth impromptu, and it emerged together with the power of existence that activated the law of freedom. The next moment, ripples like sonar spread out from her center to the surroundings, and instantly enveloped the building. Then, inside and around the building, there were dozens of small dots. "Disciple, no, phosphorus, torch." Margarine Duo clearly sensed those mirror sand groups that reflected the characteristics of Faragni's power of existence. Moreover, inside the building, there was a small aggregation of power of existence that seemed to be phosphorus. Fire bombs. Without any hesitation, Marjolaine put her index and middle fingers together, like a pistol, the most basic free method. Dozens of fire bombs condensed by the power of existence flew out in all directions, accurately destroying the surveillance mirror sand set up by the Qin people. Marcoses, after confirming that they were all defeated, Marjolaine immediately urged Marcoses to rush into the abandoned building. Soon, Marjolaine, who rushed in according to the sense location, found the location of the phosphorus. Located in the middle of a pile of garbage, next to a miniature model embedded in the ground, a rag doll like phosphorus. Phosphorus? Fire Mist Warrior. The moment Marjolaine saw her, before she made a move, the other party also discovered her, then shouted and rushed towards her, the white light lingering around her and the familiar aura. Is it that perverted fetishist and puppet control? The corresponding red world apostle emerged in Marjolaine's mind. That's right, it's Faragni. Hunter Faragni's phosphorus. Marcoses roared excitedly. This is the base of that guy. I'm so lucky to have found such a big prey. As if responding to Marcoses' excitement, ultramarine fire powder appeared on Marjolaine's hair and dark blue all outfit. The threat level ranks in the top 5 in the external world, and it is recognized as a very difficult red world devil. His heart is full of twisted material desires and love. He is not only a collector of treasures, but also a cunning killer of fire mist warriors. Many fire mist warriors have died in his hands. Are you going to use feints or traps again? Marjolaine Duo's mouth showed a ferocious smile, and the flame coat appeared. At the same time, the body turned into a giant beast in the form of a wolf bear, and the claws swung out vigorously. Whoosh! Then ultramarine flame claws passed by, and the rag doll like phosphorus was instantly torn apart, turning into a diffuse white flame and dissipating in the air. What a pitiful weak phosphorus. It's like you've lost your master, but this trick can't fool me. Margarine Duo, who transformed into a giant blue beast, bared her teeth and roared. Seal. The female voice, like a beast's roar, rang out in this abandoned department store. The bright red instantly enveloped the building, isolating this area from the cause and effect of the world. Come on, it's been a long time since I met the Demon King. I didn't expect to run into a deer while chasing flies, ha ha ha. Marcos's excited roar also rang out at the same time. However, as the sound spread, there was no subsequent movement. Quiet, extremely quiet. As time passed, Marcos and Margarine both fell into a state of doubt. Afterwards, Margarine used the method of exploring the freedom of existence several times. But apart from a few treasures scattered in the pile of toys nearby, Margarine and Marcos did not feel any other breath. Hey, Faragni, if you don't come out, I will blow up all your treasures, Marcos threatened. However, there was still no movement. At this time, an idea slowly emerged in the minds of the two. Could it be that the phosphorus that had just been weakened to an extreme and looked like it had lost its owner, and although it could be decomposed, it could not transform and absorb the power of existence by itself, was not a disguise, but the real thing? After waiting for another half a minute, the two who did not wait for the cunning and insidious attack, unsealed and removed the flame coat. Although the situation was not certain, there was no doubt that Faragni was not here now. Just as Margarine scanned the surroundings to confirm the situation, the miniature model of Misaki City, which was like a sand table in the center of the garbage mountain, came into her sight. And on the miniature model, several small flames suddenly appeared. Chapter 615 Woman. Although Margarine had never seen the glass jar, Marcos, who was the tortured minions of the Red World Demon King, naturally recognized this treasure belonging to the sacrificial snake. Even if he didn't know, he could quickly understand the approximate function of this thing as he was proficient in the freedom law. Margarine was exactly like this. Before Marcos opened his mouth to explain who this thing belonged to, Margarine understood the approximate function of this thing, and through the function, she deduced that this thing belonged to the sacrificial snake that was exiled and sealed in the gap between the Red World and the present world during the Ancient War, the permanent trap. Indeed, I heard from other Fire Mist warriors before that the hunter Faragni took this treasure from other disciples. Marcos, is that perverted puppet control planning to plot something in this city? Margarine narrowed her eyes, and the light of the power of existence emitted from the glass jar reflected on her plain glasses. I don't know. Apart from the phosphorus just now, the existence of the perverted fetishist can no longer be sensed nearby. What's going on? Are these flames created by the perverted puppeteer? Margarine watched the small flames constantly appearing on the glass jar. Knowing that these represent torches, she could no longer sit idly by. Marcos, the perverted puppeteer, may be where the torch is produced, or his phosphorus is there. Let's go there immediately. Margarine, who didn't know that Faragni had been defeated, thought that the Azin brothers and sisters had started the Cradle Garden to steal humans as Faragni's actions. And the extremely weak phosphorus just now was also regarded by Margarine as Faragni's cunning misleading. Okay, my sharp-toothed Margarine duo, use sharp teeth and sharp claws to tear apart the body of the perverted fetishist. Ha 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 ha. Amid Marcos's excited roar, Margarine duo stepped on the giant book again and flew out of the building. Hey, big sister. Where are you going? Hey, Margarine. When she flew out of the building, Tanaka and Sato, who had just climbed halfway up, also saw her and immediately called her out. That's right, take this and go to the glass jar, where the bonsai is hidden in the garbage dump. Margarine, who was called out, lowered her body and floated in front of the window. A bookmark flew out of the giant book under her feet. When I contact you, tell me what you saw. That's it. After saying that, she flew away from the sight of the two people amid Marcos's laughter. Tanaka and Sato looked at each other, and then continued to rush upstairs amid Sato Saku's complaints about Margarine. When they got upstairs, Qin Ren, who sensed Margarine's departure, also came out. It's really not a good time, but we must call Shanna and Sakayoji. But we must control it and not let Zayuden see Shanna directly. Then he took out his cell phone. Why go over there if you can call to notify? No. After thinking for half a second, Qin Ren put the phone back into his pocket. In the original plot, Zayuden ran away when he found out that the enemy was the contractor of Tanarang Jiuo, mainly because Zayudinin mistook the enemy for Matilda, the contractor of Alistair's predecessor. Matilda, the contractor of Alistair's predecessor, was the one who brought out the power of the demon god to the maximum extent and destroyed countless kings and disciples. Even the sacrificial snake was sealed in the alliance of many fire mist warriors led by her. This Matilda can be said to be the strongest among the fire mist warriors. Zayudinin did not know that Matilda had died after summoning Alistair through heaven breaking and soil shattering, so she ran away. If Zayudinin found out that the contractor of Tanarangguo was not Matilda during the battle, although he would be cautious at first, after fighting a few times, Zayudinin would definitely find that Shanna's strength was not enough. If Zayudinin found out that the contractor of Tanarangguo was a weak rookie, then it would be the end of him. Qin Ren had no doubt that if the other party found out about this situation, he would get rid of Shanna. At that time, the direction in which this world line would develop would not be under Qin Ren's control. At that time, he would have fewer things to use. He must avoid this situation, and he needed to manually guide the two people in the direction of advance. After stopping the action of injecting the power of existence into Tersra, Qin Ren used the power of existence and the mirror sand to wrap his body, strengthen his speed, and quickly left the building. However, when he arrived at Yuji Sakai's house, he helplessly found that Shanna was taking a shower, and Alistair was on the second floor, communicating with Yuji Sakai. Qin Ren jumped directly to the small balcony of Yuji Sakai's room on the second floor. Takahashi, before Qin Ren knocked on the window, Yuji Sakai had already noticed Qin Ren's arrival. One step faster than Alistair, he opened the window and let Qin Ren in. "There's no time, Sakai." Having said this, he turned to look at Alistair. "Mr. Alistair, Margarine Duo seems to have found Lamy. I saw her flying towards the north of the city." Qin Ren naturally couldn't say anything like Margarine went to find the Aizen siblings. "What? This is bad. We must stop her." Alistair's voice became serious. "Sakayuji, go and call Shanna out. We have to leave immediately." Oh, okay." Sakayuji immediately got up and ran out of the room, going downstairs through the stairs. Before Qin Ren was ready to talk to Alistair, the girl's slightly angry shout with shame and anger and Sakayuji's apology sounded downstairs. "I didn't mean it. There's something urgent." "No way, no way, no way." As a response, Shanna's 3 consecutive "no way." However, the lucky pervert and the extended love farce did not last. In less than 10 seconds, Shanna, who was already dressed despite her wet hair, rushed into the room first and grabbed the necklace directly. "Alistair, we're leaving." "Yeah." Alistair's vicissitudes and steady response sounded. However, when Shanna subconsciously rushed to the balcony, gathered the power of existence in her legs and feet, and prepared to jump up, she seemed to remember something and turned to look at Yuji Sakai. "What are you waiting for? Come here quickly." Oh, hurry up and hold tighter." "Is this so?" "Tighter." Qin Ren blinked and wanted to say something when he looked at the young couple who seemed to have become much closer in just 2 days. "Well, it's not my cup of tea." Qin Ren is not interested in Lilai, and even less interested in Tsundere. Then, he was scolded by the same style but different prices. "What are you waiting for? Hurry up and lead the way." "Which direction?" "Ha, woman." Chapter 616 Cradle Garden. At the same time, in the small barrier that was spread out in the cradle garden to block out the aura, Iranzi, Tilia, was looking around. Suddenly, she turned her gaze to the southwest. "Fire Mist Warrior, but it seems that he is not the holder of the Xidian Zana that my brother wants." The beautiful girl's eyes swept over her favorite beautiful boy, her brother Sarant, and the other party's eyes were still facing the southeast, and his eyes were getting brighter and brighter. It seemed that the holder of Xidian Zana was also rushing towards them. "Zayudinin." Tilia showed a doting expression, stroking her brother's hair that was clinging to her tightly with one hand, and power burst out from the depths of her blue eyes. "Then this is left to you. Protect the self-singing harp." At the same time as her voice sounded, the golden round shield that was originally only the size of a room and included several people, at this moment, quickly expanded outwards. Looking at the golden color that quickly expanded around, Zayudinin curled the corners of his mouth. "There is no fixed form for the free law. and there were no specific rules for writing it at the beginning. The strange existence is a phenomenon caused by the nature of each disciple. Most of the free laws that appear now are formed by the modification of the fragments of the great poem of that adult by various free masters, and by the spirit and thinking of each disciple to respond to their own characteristics. The more common one is that the fire bomb produced by the concrete aggressive spirit will have various special effects. And cradle garden. This is the free law constructed by Iran from Tilia's existence force characteristic doting embrace, with the help of the self-singing harpigal, which injects love into others to protect the cradle garden and the like. The effect is similar to the seal, and the protective shield formed by the golden leaves is the free law cradle garden that Iran Tilia is most proud of. Unlike ordinary free laws, it will not miss the sense of disharmony in the surrounding world, that is, the breath that can be used as a clue when the fire mist warrior chases the disciples. This is an exchange of interests between him and the Iran brothers and sisters. Relying on their cradle garden to cover up his aura, the fire mist warriors could not find him. He was not afraid of the fire mist warriors, he just didn't want to waste time entangled with them. As a powerful demon king, he was very different from other Red World disciples. The Thousand Changes Zayudinin, who changed his appearance at any time, brought a very strong sense of disharmony to this world, that is, aura. If he didn't stay in the masquerade, his aura would be easily found by other fire mist warriors, especially when he needed to hunt humans to absorb the power of existence. Before the masquerade was fully deployed, it was impossible for him to deal with the group of guys in the outside world alone. Generally, it only wraps around the whole body of the target, and opens up to replace the seal when foraging, and the activities inside can completely escape the eyes and ears of the fire mist warriors. In addition, with the music box called Eagle, as long as this treasure is not destroyed and the secret of the law of freedom is not revealed, it would be difficult for him to kill the two brothers and sisters. Infinite regeneration. Although he had just accepted the commission of the two siblings to protect them, he had learned a lot in this short time. The name General was not just nice to hear. Tilia handed a treasure with the appearance of a small music box to Zudinin. Drowning embrace was Tilia's own characteristic, and it was the law of freedom that extended from her own characteristics. The cradle garden was a law of freedom with self-circulation ability formed by the combination of drowning embrace and the auto minkin. As long as it was activated and the barrier was unfolded, it would be able to survive on its own without Tilia holding and maintaining it. In this case, it would be foolproof to hand over the key auto minkin to the powerful Zudinin for protection. With this idea in mind, Tilia handed over the treasure. After putting the auto minkin in his pocket, Zudinin turned around and left, walking towards the southwest direction pointed by Tilia. After Zudinin left, the two of them moved directly to the southeast without any hesitation. It's really quick. I wanted to spend a few more days to let the zither, said the small gears automatically, but it doesn't matter, let me do it myself. The golden mist engulfed the city of Misaki, covering everything, filling everything, and making everything still. Seeing the golden leaves flying in all directions, like a barrier of seal rushing directly towards them, Qin Ren, Shanna, and Sakayuji immediately became alert. Is this a seal? Sakayuji asked with a little doubt. When Takahashi was learning to use the seal from Alistair, he told him that most of the seals were red, but there were also special colors. To confirm, he turned his sight to the humans on the ground, and all the creatures on the ground stopped moving. It should be. Qin Ren, who knew what was going on, naturally had to play dumb, but I haven't seen Lamy use this kind of seal. While playing dumb, he did not forget to deepen his relationship with Lamy. Qin Ren misled him again, and now Alistair has completely regarded Qin Ren as Lamy's creation. Mistis, who is related to Lamy. Isn't it Lamy's seal? Alistair's steady voice sounded, with a little doubt. This breath is something I haven't seen before. Is it hidden, or did it enter the world when I was in Tandao Palace? Even as one of the three gods of the Red World, he can't remember every Red World disciple. The owner of this breath may even be a young man who was born in the Red World after he came to the world, and then came to the world. Then I will confirm whether there is anything special about this barrier. Although he has learned the free method, his proposal is still not very powerful in Shanna's eyes. and it was immediately accepted. Looking at Shanna, who continued to take Sakayuji away, Qin Ren curled his lips. The next thing to do is to avoid Zayudanan and get the self-singing harp. Outside the cradle garden, he couldn't feel his mirror sand, but after entering the cradle garden, he could sense his mirror sand. In the direction where Shanna was heading, there were two disciples, a boy and a girl. Then, another disciple with a stronger aura was passing through the surveillance network formed by his mirror sand and heading towards the commercial district. And he had already collided with Margarine. Really fast. He twisted his wrist slightly, and the power of existence surged out of his body, gathering around him and forming a mirror sand soldier that was exactly the same as him, and he himself let the mirror sand cover his body surface, and at the same time activated the tersra in his body. The aura quickly disappeared. Chapter 617 Happy Wingman Mr. Qin Ren. Soon, Yuji Sake, who was traveling with Shanna, relied on his powerful perception ability to detect a huge monster formed purely by the power of existence. It was a strange existence with the appearance of a flower, perched on the top of a tall building. From the giant flower, countless golden tentacles like vines extended, hanging down from the top of the building like a waterfall, extending in all directions. That's it, Shanna. I know it without you telling me. I'll destroy it immediately. Wait a minute. Although he had started special training, Yuji Sake, whose combat power had not increased much, also got off the car halfway and suggested observing from a distance and assisting from the side. Facing Yuji Sake, who became emotionally active under the instigation of Qin Ren, Shanna did not want him to face his disciples directly and fall into danger, so she naturally agreed. After putting Yuji Sake down, Shanna took a few steps, and with the inhuman strength enhanced by the power of existence, she ran up the wall of the building more than 10 stories high in one breath. As if sensing her presence, the golden vines all shook and shot towards her. At the same time, relying on Tersra's concealment, Qin Ren also came to a giant flower less than 3 meters away. This giant flower does not have human vision, its perception is the perception of the power of existence. Qin Ren, who shielded his own breath through Tersra, did not exist in the perception of the giant flower-shaped phosphorus. It is indeed a low-level phosphorus. If it is a disciple or a fire mist warrior, even if using Tersra, it is normal to be discovered from 3 meters away, let alone 2 meters. If it is someone like Makayanglan who is proficient in the free method, or someone like Sakayuji who has an abnormally strong perception, it is not impossible to detect from 5 meters away. This is also the reason why he needs to avoid the abandoned building. After sensing contact with other mirror sands and confirming that no one is approaching, Qin Ren sent out the mirror sand soldiers to attack. The sand soldiers, condensed by the flowing mirror sand, rushed directly to the giant flower phosphorus from the other side. Without Tersra's concealing barrier, the mirror sand soldiers were immediately discovered by the giant flower phosphorus. Without any hesitation, amidst the dust, the golden vine tentacles kept wriggling and shooting towards the mirror sand soldiers. It's been a long time since I've done micro-control. Let's do it once. Seeing the golden vine tentacles wriggling, Qin Ren also controlled the mirror sand soldiers. Reflection. Robbery fire. The mirror sand surged, and the long sword condensed from the smooth mirror sand suddenly swayed into a flame-like posture, emitting red. Whoosh. Hot sand long sword. With the flashing red light, the hot sand long sword swept through the air and intersected with the 3 golden tentacles that were whipping. Swish, accompanied by a short cutting sound, the golden vines were directly cut off by the sand flame. However, the breaking of the 3 vines did not have much impact on the giant flower phosphorus. When the vines were cut off by the flame sand, the giant flower phosphorus waved dozens of other vines and whipped towards the mirror sand soldiers again. It's a bit slow. The Qin who made the comment controlled the mirror sand soldier to kick his legs hard to accelerate, and instantly jumped to the building next to him. The golden vine tentacles chased after him and swung at him. The mirror sand soldier dodged again. Boom boom. The mirror sand soldier dodged flexibly under the control of the Qin. The dozens of golden vine tentacles smashed the walls and windows one after another, penetrated the building behind it, and turned the building into a honeycomb. Because they penetrated the building, they pierced between the vines and the giant flower in the building, forming several vine bridges. Then, under the control of the Qin, the mirror sand soldier stepped directly on the vine bridge and rushed towards the giant flower. Discovering this situation, the vines that invaded the entire building as if to knock down the building retreated in unison. It seemed that the vines could no longer catch up with the mirror sand soldier. The ground suddenly cracked, and bundles of vines pierced up like thorns. Kaka, with a crisp sound, after swinging the hot sand sword and cutting off several vines with the flame sand, the body of the mirror sand soldier was suddenly shattered, and the mirror sand that did not reflect the characteristics of the calamity fire was scattered, and the hot sand sword also flew up with the arm at the moment when the mirror sand soldier's body was shattered, and was shattered by the vines chasing from behind. However, at this moment, Qin Ren's body jumped up, and because of the violent movement, the breath covered by the treasure tessera, which needed stability to maintain, leaked out. At this distance, Qin Ren's breath leaked, causing the giant flower phosphorus to react immediately, and the vine tentacles flew out and pierced up from under Qin Ren. At this angle, I have no interest in this kind of heavy play, and I don't want to do it myself. Qin Ren waved his right hand, and the mirror sand shattered by the vines and the flame sand reflecting the calamity fire gathered in his hand with his will, forming the mirror sand of the entire mirror sand soldier, and gathered into a big sword in his hand. He stepped heavily on the ground, and the emerging mirror sand formed a step under his feet, which lifted his body again and avoided the golden light and shadow of a vine. At the same time, Qin Ren held the hot sand sword tightly in his right arm. The mirror sand transformed by the power of existence reflected the incomplete conviction and judgment characteristics from Alistair with his will. The mirror sand full of the characteristics of the calamity fire emerged and released a powerful destructive force. With a twist of his body, the sword wrapped with the flame sand reflecting the calamity fire, and with Qin Ren's right hand, a vortex-like sandstorm was swung out. Haskai! The happy wind man shouted the lines, and the hot sandstorm reflecting the calamity fire swept out. It is better to say that the hot sand sword turned into a storm rather than setting off a storm. The flame sand sword in Qin Ren's hand has disappeared, and the flame sand storm that rolled towards the giant flower phosphorus is the hot sand sword itself. As the storm swept down, the scorching fire instantly burned the vines that attacked, and it was about to hit the giant flower phosphorus and destroy it together. But just as the giant flower phosphorus kept raising its vines to try to resist the flame sand storm, the flame sand that swayed like a flame suddenly changed. It was as if the burning flame suddenly turned into a flexible water flow that penetrated everywhere, and the mirror sand instantly became smooth, and then white emerged. Faragni's flame, although it does not have strong destructive power, it has the characteristics of penetration, control, and manipulation. The white sand, which was surrounded by white light and composed of ceramic fragments, entangled the giant flower phosphorus. It's really difficult. What Qin Ren wanted to do was to capture this phosphorus completely, and then record the characteristics of the power of existence of the phosphorus's owner, Iran Titilia, and fully obtain the means to create this phosphorus. His goal was to get the treasure in Tilia's cradle garden. This phosphorus is also an important part of the cradle garden, and the power of existence of nearly 100 people is really a piece of fat meat. Chapter 618 Twisted Tree Spirit. Mr. Qin, the mirror sand that swept out, reflecting the characteristics of the power of existence from Faragni, continued to flow out of Qin Ren's body, wrapping the body of the giant flower phosphorus. However, the power of the giant flower phosphorus was not restricted by this. Just as the mirror sand completely wrapped the body of the giant flower phosphorus, and began to penetrate and record the characteristics of the power of existence from Azentatlia and the structure of phosphorus, the tentacles of the giant flower phosphorus, like vines, kept struggling and swinging, trying to get rid of the mirror sand wrapped around its body. Qin Ren, who discovered this scene, narrowed his eyes slightly. He used the power of existence to transform a lot of mirror sand, and it should be no problem to control this giant flower phosphorus, unless this cradle garden can not only allow phosphorus to directly transfer the power of existence to the orthopedic brothers and sisters, but also transfer the power of existence from Mother Phosphorus and even the orthopedic brothers and sisters to Phosphorus? Although it is not difficult to guess, Qin Ren did not expect that the function of this cradle garden would be so good. However, there is no effect. Qin Ren raised his hand, and the mirror sand condensed and formed in the air with his will, and then reflected a golden color. A doting embrace, protection, regeneration, and transmission, good qualities. The golden mirror sand gathered into a knight's spear, fell from the sky, and nailed the vine tentacles of the giant flower Phosphorus to the ground. Record: it's almost done. He is no longer the one who had to secretly pick up Faragni's phosphorus fragments, and the amount of existence power is not as good as a phosphorus. This breath, which is similar to Tilia's existence power, immediately confused the giant flower Phosphorus without vision. Instinct made it resist the thing that trapped it, but there was also the power of the master. The struggle gradually weakened in the confusion and incomprehension of its not-so-high rationality. When its struggle gradually weakened, Qin Ren also changed the mirror sand that penetrated into its body into Tilia's characteristics. The power that was wrapped around the giant flower and locked its body was all from the master, which made the giant flower Phosphorus completely give up resistance. Qin Ren, who also reflected his own aura, became a companion in the perception of the giant flower Phosphorus. Looking at the giant flower Phosphorus that had calmed down, Qin Ren smiled and stayed by the giant flower Phosphorus, continuing to guard the mirror sand and continue to analyze and record the structure of Phosphorus. Then the surging mirror sand gathered around him and formed two mirror sand soldiers. Finally adjust the appearance. With his palm groping his chin, Qin Ren adjusted the appearance of the two mirror sand soldiers. Your name is Louise, your name is Scoot. Oh, no, Dragosido. The mirror sand surged and turned into a pink-haired girl who looked 15 or 16 years old and a boy with an ordinary face, short stature, about 17 or 18 years old. Driven by his will, the two mirror sand soldiers rushed out in two directions respectively. It's really hard work. We still have to use it sparingly. To make a mirror sand soldier, we need 300 people's worth of existence force. It's not that the mirror sand soldiers need so much existence force. A few or a dozen people's existence force is also fine, but to ensure that they can defeat the Phosphorus, 300 people's existence force is needed. If combat skills are used, the probability of 100 mirror sand soldiers defeating this giant flower Phosphorus head-on is more than 50%. But for what Qin Ren is going to do later, he can't distract himself to control other mirror sand soldiers, so he can only let them act on their own. It is necessary to copy the structure of the Phosphorus and combine the previous experience of making puppets and sand soldiers to make a pseudo-Phosphorus-like mirror sand soldier that can act independently. However, there is no need to worry, just find other Phosphorus and swallow them one by one to replenish them. As long as these two mirror sand soldiers can swallow more than 3 Phosphorus before being destroyed, they can make a profit. Watching the two mirror sand soldiers go away, Qin Ren created another mirror sand soldier. However, the amount used is only the amount of the torch. The appearance is also Qin Ren's appearance. Stand-in and himself. The mirror sand circulated and condensed on his body, covering his body surface, and then reflected the power of Tilia's existence. In an instant, Qin Ren's aura strengthened again, from the original level that could only deceive Phosphorus to the level that even the Fire Mist warriors could not recognize him, and he completely showed the same characteristics as Tilia. Glancing at the almost completed record, Qin Ren slightly adjusted his appearance. The mirror sand gathered on his body, forming a shape like a dead tree trunk. Speaking of which tree's skin is better? Green Gate God and Festive Tree are excluded, and the appearance of the totem Ancient Tree is too suitable. Phosphorus, who wanted to disguise himself as Tilia, still had a better appearance of a plant, but the giant flower Phosphorus was not suitable for movement, so the appearance of Jireh and Maokai was more suitable. Sure enough, the golden appearance of the victory tree was more suitable. The mirror sand gradually transformed into golden bark, covering his body. Looking at his dry bark-like fingers, Qin Ren clenched his fists slightly, and the mirror sand condensed into a golden sapling in his hands. What is Maokai's E-skill called? Qin Ren, who transformed into Maokai, thought about Maokai's skills. However, compared to these, it is better to set off, otherwise it will be bad if the self-singing harp is destroyed first. Shanna and Aizen have already met, holding the Zidianzana and covering her body with the power of existence. Shanna nimbly dodged the attacks of vines. Boom boom boom. After dodging several vines, Shanna did not feel relieved. The ground cracked again, and bundles of vines pierced like thorns. Flame Odachi. Shanna quickly dodged, and the Zidianzana in her hand drew a blazing red track, easily burning the vines to ashes. But at this moment, a figure rushed out from the surrounding vines. Ha! With a shout like a stick, a beautiful blonde boy flew towards Shanna on the vines, swung the giant sword in his hand, and mercilessly slashed at Shanna's neck. Facing the attack, Shanna dodged sideways and stepped on the vines next to her, avoiding the attack of Iran Z Surat. Watch out! Watch out! Watch out! After an attack failed, Surat, holding the giant sword of the treasure named Vampire, launched a series of attacks. The continuous and smooth continuous offensive was completely inconsistent with this innocent voice. It's really difficult. Shanna frowned and held the Zidianzana tightly. The blazing red power of existence surged from her body and back. Wings of flame, the free method that manifested the characteristics of Alice, are condensed into angel-like flame wings with the fire of catastrophe, which can be used for attack and flight. The huge flame wings suddenly slapped forward at the moment of condensation, directly knocking Surat's giant sword off the side. And then, Flame Odachi. Chapter 619, Improvisational Massacre Poem. With the sound of the blade touching flesh and blood, Surat's head was directly cut off by the fire-wrapped Zidianzana. Brother. Staring at the smooth cross-section where blood was dripping continuously, Iran Tilia, the girl in a gorgeous dress, screamed. Tilia's scream seemed to pierce through the golden mist, causing the cradle garden built by the power of her existence to swell. However, Shanna had no intention of stopping. The flaming sword extended from Zidianzana in her hand pierced through Surat's body diagonally. With a blazing red swing, Surat's left upper body was completely split, and the flames directly burned Surat's body to ashes. Less than 1/3 of the upper body and head that were cut off were flying in the air and falling, turning into golden fire powder and dissipating. Only the part below his chest and right arm were standing on the vines. The remaining right arm held the giant sword Vampire high, and together with the remaining body of Surat, they fell down. Shanna did not pay any more attention to Surat's severed corpse, thinking that the killed disciples would dissipate and disappear like before. Holding the Zidianzana, she pushed hard with her feet, and the wings formed by the fire flapped, carrying her over the debris and vines of Surat, holding the blazing red fire knife high, and launched a slash at Tilia. However, at this moment, a familiar voice that made Shanna sweat coldly sounded behind her. Oh, it's worthy of Zidianzana, so powerful. With the sudden voice, Shanna's hands and feet were suddenly entangled. The giant sword named Vampire fell from the side and directly cut off the Zidianzana in Shanna's hand. Sakayuji was walking towards the location of the abnormal existence in his perception, and just after Shanna killed Surat, he sensed a huge flow of energy, which should be the position of the two disciples fighting with Shanna. His strong perception allowed him to clearly feel this flow, but it appeared again. An unusually strong breath similar to that of phosphorus. Moreover, it appeared from the same direction, no, the same position. Two breaths that were different from the previous disciples, not very strong, probably with the strength of phosphorus, were moving rapidly in other directions. Then, another breath that was almost the same as those two disciples was rushing towards the direction of Ma Qianglin and the third disciple, the powerful disciple. However, it was a little strange that the phosphorus was different from the things that he sensed that looked like phosphorus. The other phosphorus with unusually strong breaths were all fixed in one place and did not move. He didn't know if they were phosphorus. Moreover, as time went on, perhaps because of the battle with Shanna, those phosphorus would continuously transmit the power of existence to the position of the disciples. The reason why it was strange was that this phosphorus was not only not fixed, but also did not have any sense of transmitting the power of existence. It's not that it's strange not to transmit the power of existence. On the contrary, through Alistair and Shanna, he learned that none of the phosphorus particles could transmit the power of existence remotely. This large area of phosphorus particles that can transmit the power of existence remotely is abnormal, and this abnormal phosphorus particle is normal, according to common sense. Those that are fixed are not phosphorus particles, and the one that moves is phosphorus. But it is precisely because all the phosphorus particles are fixed and can transmit the power of existence remotely that this normal phosphorus particle that can move and does not transmit appears special. Could it be that this phosphorus particle is the key? Sakayuji thought, and locked his target on this phosphorus particle. However, under normal circumstances, it is a normal method to destroy those phosphorus particles that transmit power to the disciples first. But the problem came again. He did not destroy the power of the phosphorus particles. If those fixed things were really phosphorus particles, although he knew that he had a magical thing like zero-time lost child, he did not get powerful power from it. In short, first investigate the nature and structure of the object at close range, and if possible, find a way to destroy it so that it cannot function. As for what method to take, he would think about it after seeing it with his own eyes. However, at this moment, he noticed that a phosphorus fixed in the southeast position suddenly disappeared. And the reason was one of the two existences with different auras just discovered. Attacking phosphorus, internal fighting, or other fire fog warriors. This aura was very strange. It felt like phosphorus but seemed different. It was different from the feeling of the two fire fog warriors, Shanna and Ma Qianglin. However, there was no doubt that this would help him. After hesitating for a while and looking in the direction of Ma Qianglin, he turned around and moved in the direction of the aura that destroyed the phosphorus. At the same time, the Qin people had also approached the position of Ma Qianglin and Zyu Dinan. The two were fighting. Zyu Dinan, although the Qin people had never seen him, there was no doubt that the one wearing a blue flame coat, transformed into a monster like a wolf bear, and continuously firing flame bombs from his arms was Ma Qianglin. The enemy flapped his huge wings and flew quickly between buildings, avoiding Ma Qianglin's dense firepower like a machine gun. When Ma Qianglin was shooting at Zyu Dinan, a huge arm suddenly stretched out from under the ground and grabbed Ma Qianglin. Down! Marcoses shouted, and the loud shout made Ma Qianglin turn the muzzle of the gun, pointing her right arm downward, and dense flame bombs were shot downward. Boom boom boom. The dense attack like bullets directly penetrated the huge arm. However, at this moment, from the building next to it, a monster like a giant snake suddenly rushed out, and its huge mouth with fangs and rows of teeth bit most of Ma Qianglin's body. But when the fangs and teeth exerted force, the body of Ma Qianglin suddenly shattered, and dozens of identical Ma Qianglins in the form of wolf-bear monsters surrounded the giant snake, raising their claws at the same time. "Kitten, kitten, what are you doing there?" Ma Qianglin uttered a limerick from some story, and a phantom like a page of a book swayed in front of her, forming a huge circle. An impromptu slaughter poem, the free method of Marcos's characteristic manifestation, a comprehensive free method that combines various functions such as reconnaissance, defense, and attack. The next moment, flame monsters formed by ultramarine flames, like wolves and foxes, rushed out of the circle and bit the giant snake in the middle. Chapter 620, Izir Qin. Qin Ren silently observed the battle between Zyu Dinan and Majin through the mirror sand from a distance. He transformed into Ma Okai and deployed nearby in the blind spot of Zyu Dinan and Majin's vision, disguising himself as a giant flower phosphorus in the flow of mirror sand. Fake phosphorus in the form of saplings moved around the battlefield where Majin and Zyu Dinan were fighting, and the torch he had made as a substitute for himself moved straight towards the building where Zyu Dinan was standing before. After analyzing the structure of phosphorus, he had mastered the flow of the power of existence of these phosphorus connected to the cradle garden. By completely reconstructing phosphorus, he could sense the flow of the power of existence in the cradle garden. He also sensed the location of the music box-like treasure. He originally thought that the music box would be worn by Zyu Dinan, but it was not. Even if the battle between Zyu Dinan and Majin was fierce, this golden seal did not fluctuate at all. The knowledge of the law of freedom he learned from Alistair made him understand that the most important thing for the law of freedom of sealing, a barrier type, is stability. As Mistus, the tersala and the torch in his body. He must also maintain stability if he wants to release the barrier. He doesn't know what the specific effect of the music box-like treasure is, but it is impossible to maintain stability in such a fierce battle. Therefore, the treasure must not be placed on Zudinen, and he has been watching to determine the specific location of the treasure. The incarnation reconstructed the giant flower phosphorus to observe the specific relationship between the giant flower phosphorus and the barrier. The supply and delivery relationship between the power of existence of the phosphorus and the orthopedic brothers and sisters is provided by this golden seal itself. And now, he finally found it. The substitute torch quickly came to the front of the building, jumped between floors with swift movements, and climbed onto a car in the parking lot on the roof of the building. On the driver's seat of the car, there was a gorgeous music box with alternating golden and red colors. Unlike the completely silent surroundings, which seemed to have stopped in time, this music box was constantly playing, and the gears hooked the sound tube, making beautiful sounds. Qin Ren observed the music box through the substitute torch disguised as the mirror sand. However, he did not take the music box away immediately. The next moment, the body of the substitute torch disintegrated and turned into countless scattered mirror sands, pouring into the music box. The next moment, these mirror sands began to reflect, emitting white light. Faragni's power of existence. It is impossible to take it away directly. If you take it away directly, Zudinen will definitely leave Marjolin alone and rush over directly, and he is not sure whether the orthopedic brother and sister will rush over. First reflect Faragni's power of existence. The power of existence of the perverted puppet control is excellent in that it can quickly control the penetration ability of the treasure and the law of freedom. Don't act rashly. In order to scare Zudinen away, he must prepare well and find a way to let Zudinen see Alistair's fire directly. It is probably impossible for Shanna to get rid of the entanglement of the orthopedic brothers and sisters in a short time. Then I'll do it. Qin Ren, who transformed into a giant flower phosphorus, continued to observe the battle between Zudinen and Ma Qianglin. At the same time, the saplings made of mirror sand controlled by him rushed towards the direction of the music box one by one, and he also made some moves. It will only take 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Ma Qianglin, hold on for another 2 minutes. At the same time, on the other side, Sakayuji stared at the boy who was wearing a blue sweater and holding a strange long sword, who was about the same age as himself, swinging the long sword and killing the phosphorus who looked like a huge flower bud. Fire mist warrior. Sakayuji hid behind the bunker and thought uncertainly. It didn't feel right. The other party didn't give him the feeling of a fire mist warrior, but a bit like phosphorus, but inexplicably felt different from phosphorus. And the other party killed phosphorus. From this point of view, the other party should be a friendly force, but he couldn't be sure. After observing for a while, he found that every time the strange long sword in the opponent's hand fell, the existence power of the huge phosphorus body like a flower bud would be reduced by a few points. With the slash, the existence power of the boy who seemed as young as him would become stronger. It didn't look like the fire fog warrior killing the disciples, but it was a bit like the scene of phosphorus devouring the existence power of humans. Something was wrong. Sakayuji immediately erased the idea of approaching and talking after the battle. However, at this moment, he found that the boy suddenly turned his head, as if he noticed something, and looked in another direction. Sakayuji also turned his head with the other party's sight. That seemed to be the direction where the fire fog warrior named Ma Qianglin fought with another disciple last time. It was at this time that Sakayuji saw that the boy's originally slightly dull fighting style suddenly became flexible. The strange long sword in his hand also turned into a giant sword in an instant. With a different agile movement from before, the boy easily dodged the swing of dozens of vines, and the giant sword fell, splitting the huge flower bud in two. Then the flower bud turned into fragments of the power of existence and was swallowed by the giant sword in the boy's hand. After doing all this, the other party looked in his direction with a smile. However, the expected attack did not come. Sakayuji watched in surprise as the other party did all this, and then burst out with a speed that was not inferior to Shanna, rushing in the direction he had just looked at. At the same time, Another girl with long pink hair suddenly became agile from being sluggish. She waved the staff in her hand, and a huge flame bomb with a diameter of 3 meters fell from the sky like a meteorite, smashing and absorbing a huge flower bud. Then, she rushed directly to the position where the Qin people were. Zayudinin, who turned into a giant snake, opened his mouth, and his sharp fangs bit the flame fox wolf that was spreading in front of the left. It was extremely accurate. At the moment when the blue fox wolf was bitten to pieces, the other fire beasts also dissipated in an instant. The next moment, 2 claws that looked like wolf or tiger claws stretched out from the body of the giant snake, and attacked Marjolaine. Beast against beast, let's have sex to our heart's content. Beauty of slaughter, I can't get excited about you. At least become more beautiful. Faced with Zayudinin's frivolous provocation, Marjolaine was not to be outdone. Otherwise, it will be too painful to hang your head in the collection room. Accompanied by a female voice that sounded like a beast's roar, Marjolaine's pair of ultramarine claws swung out. Do you have wool? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. 3 bags are full. As Marjolaine and Marcoses sang together like a limerick, the ultramarine claws fired dense flame bombs again. Just as Zayudinin sneered and prepared to defeat the opponent with one blow, he sensed that something happened at the location of the treasure. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 621. Surprise. Seeing the pink-haired girl and the boy holding the strange sword appear in his field of vision, Qin Ren couldn't help but smile. It's time to start. Without delay, Qin Ren immediately began to act through the mirror sand attached to the automy. What he had to do was to absorb the existence power of all the giant flower phosphorus in the cradle garden into himself through the self-sustaining method of the automy. When the pink-haired girl and the boy holding the strange sword came to Qin Ren, who had transformed into a giant flower phosphorus, their bodies immediately disintegrated and turned into mirror sand that poured into Qin Ren's body. Suddenly, Qin Ren, who had become weak because of dividing too much power, was replenished and had a surplus. Immediately, Qin Ren began to operate the self-sustaining method with all his strength, stopping the existence power of the giant flower phosphorus from flowing to the orthopedic brothers and sisters, and then sucked the existence power back through the self-sustaining method of the cradle garden in the form of giant flower phosphorus. Although he had recorded most of the free French words of the cradle garden and had infiltrated the self-sounding harp, he could not completely cut off the existence force flowing to the orthopedic brothers and sisters. However, if the existence force flowing to the orthopedic brothers and sisters before was a big river, now it was only the amplitude of a farm canal. However, even so, it was quite fatal to the 3 people who were fighting. Qin Ren raised his mouth, and his eyes hidden under the appearance of the giant flower phosphorus swept towards the direction where Zayudinin and Ma Qianglin were fighting. I hope that the reflection of the calamity fire can scare Zayudinin away, otherwise he can't absorb it all, and can only absorb a little and turn around and run with the self-sounding harp. At the same time, on the other side, Flame Sword. When the Zidian Zana in Shanna's hand was shot down, this silly beautiful boy Iranzi Surat threw away the giant sword called Vampire without hesitation, and instead grabbed the falling Zidian Zana. As new generation of disciples, the 2 of them only had the impression that the heaven and earth tribulation fire was very old, and they did not realize that the flame with terrifying destructive power came from Shanna herself, from Alistair who had contracted with Shanna. Surat, who regarded the flame as the ability of Zidian Zana himself, raised a big sword and shouted. However, the flame did not flow out of the sword. At the same time, Shanna suddenly felt that the vines that bound her hands were rapidly weakening. As the owner of the cradle garden, Iran, Tilio also immediately discovered that the surging power of existence was rapidly weakening, and the power of the small gear that controlled the giant flower phosphorus that bound Shanna was rapidly losing. Not only this one, but the small gears in other places were also transmitting their own power of existence through the cradle garden without regard for the consequences. Not to him, but to another small gear in the direction of Zayudinen. Zayudinen, what did you do? Tilia, who was originally elegant and quiet, and looked at Saran like a mother and a lover, screamed. Who else could do something to the zither except Zayudinen, who was responsible for protecting the zither? When she screamed, she turned around and rushed towards Sarat desperately. Brother. However, it was too late. Although she was weak in emotions, Shanna's combat experience and intuition as a fire mist warrior were quite strong in combat. Looking at Sarat, who shouted Sword of Flame and then raised the high-handed Zana with a flawless posture, pointing the tip of the blade at her, Shanna smiled. Is this the Sword of Flame you mentioned? As her voice fell, and amid Tilia's screams, Shanna's hand surged with powerful existence power, surging, violent, and destructive flames. At the moment of surging, the calamity fire quickly expanded and condensed, forming two flaming swords. At the same time, behind her, the petite back covered by the long red hair that raised the fire powder, the surging fire formed a huge fire wing. At the moment of formation, the fire wing flapped. At the same time, because the restraints were weakened, Shanna was able to turn her wrist, and with the flapping of the fire wings, she smashed the vines wrapped around her feet and legs. Shanna twisted her wrist, and two blazing red flame blades cut off the vines that bound her hands and attacked Sarat. Before Sarat could react, the two blazing red flame blades merged into one, turning into a flaming sword, and a horizontal slash swept through Sarat's body. With sparks flying, Sarat's body was broken into two, and the fracture on the cross-section showed a charcoal-like black. The golden power of existence was constantly dissipating, as if announcing the death of its owner. Brother. Witnessing all this, Tilia's scream became louder and louder, and then, a steady stream of existence power surged out of her body, and was transmitted to Sarat's wreckage through the free law of the Cradle Garden. Using that little existence power is not enough to repair her brother's body, she must use her own. Without any hesitation, Tilia chose to save her brother Sarat even if she sacrificed herself. However, at the moment when her existence power surged out, it was intercepted and taken away by a strong attraction from another direction. It was the direction just now. It was Zayudinen. No! Tilia screamed loudly, trying to exercise her control as the master of the free law, remotely interfere with the free law Cradle Garden released by the self-singing harp, take back the power, and transmit it to her brother. But swish, the blazing red trajectory pierced through her body. After killing Sarat, Shanna waved the newly taken back Zidian Zana without hesitation, cutting Tilia's body in half. It's in the plan. Tilia's attempt to remotely interfere with the action of the self-singing harp is also a big threat to the Qin people. Although the Cradle Garden free law is released through the self-singing harp, Tilia is at least the master of the free law. Her existence force characteristics are the prototype of the Cradle Garden free law. If the other party wants to interfere with the free law, it will also be a big obstacle for the Qin people. But fortunately, Shanna is not a pig teammate and did not watch Tilia interfere with the free law. The continuous flow of existence force from the phosphorus in various parts of the city has continuously strengthened the power of the Qin people. He calculated that Faragni's swallowing of the city and obtained the existence force of 3,000 people. In the following period of time, he only got less than 100 people's existence force by picking up torches. And now, it has reached 5,000 people. If you just suck the existence force of the giant flower phosphorus through the Cradle Garden, even if you suck it out, you can only get about 5,000 people. But now, the progress is less than 10%. And it has reached the highest expectation. He also didn't expect that Irantalia would send the power of existence into the transmission channel of the Cradle Garden, an unexpected surprise. However, Zayudinen has already arrived. Through the vision formed by the mirror sand floating in the air, Qin Ren clearly saw that Zayudinen burst out and knocked Makayanglin away. The huge wolf bear-like body directly penetrated a building and smashed into another building. We have to retreat. Although he was prepared to scare Zayudinen away like in the original book in theory, Qin Ren would not pin all his hopes on scare off such an uncontrollable and unreliable means, and immediately set out to flee. While fleeing, he urged the mirror sand that had been prepared long ago to reflect. The smooth sand like a mirror swayed and gathered into a blazing red flame, which suddenly appeared at the edge of Ziyudinin's vision. Chapter 622 Second-hand Preparation. The dazzling red flame made Ziyudinin stunned. At this moment, two phosphorus appeared in his peripheral vision, with the breath of Tilia. Ziyudinin, do you know heavenly tribulation fire? The name of the contracted demon king of that woman sounds quite ancient. It was Iran's small gear, which was similar to phosphorus, but it was undoubtedly a kind of phosphorus. During this period, Ziyudinin often communicated with Iran and his sister remotely through such phosphorus. And the words of Tilia also made Ziyudinin confirm the identity of the other party. It was indeed not wrong. That blazing red color, in his memory, in his cognition, the only one who had this color of flame was the contractor of heavenly tribulation fire, the slayer of the flaming hair and burning eyes. Heavenly tribulation fire. Is it the slayer of the flaming hair and burning eyes? Facing the slayer of the flaming hair and burning eyes alone, he could not win, and the possibility of defeat was quite high. Just hearing about the existence of the flame-haired burning eye, Ziyudinin had no intention of escaping. He just frowned, and a solemn expression appeared on the face of the strange beast that looked like a synthetic beast. It was difficult to face the punitive of the flame-haired burning eye alone, but he also had to face the eulogy chanter. He might not even be able to run away. Damn, if he only faced the eulogy chanter alone, he would have a chance to kill him directly. Tilia, let's retreat immediately as a bodyguard. Ziyudinin immediately made a suggestion to Tilia. No, a request. However, Tilia's voice sounded again from the small gear in the girl's posture. No, the Zidian Zanith that my brother wants is still in the hands of that woman, and I also found a very interesting thing. What is it? Ziyudinin frowned. I warn you, with the destructive power of the flame hair burning eye, even if your cradle garden has a strong regeneration ability, it will be useless. However, the name said by the other party made Ziyudinin's warning come to an abrupt end. 0 hour lost, although it is a 0 hour lost with a ban. But I am very interested in this thing, which can be used together with the Izir Qin to form a new method of freedom. 0 hour lost. The sense of responsibility that was originally generated from the duty of being a bodyguard for others was immediately shattered by this term. Use the resonance and linkage generated by the huge recovery force of the chaos caused by the Red World Apostles to obtain the reaction force of the distortion caused by the lack of the power of existence, or the recovery force of the distorted world. In other words, the treasure 0 hour lost is symbolized by the recurring perpetual clock, which negates the deterioration and consumption produced within a day. The words of the crazy professor echoed in Ziyudinin's ears. However, Ziyudinin was not concerned about the principle of this 0 hour lost, but the events related to the 0 hour lost. The Great Fate poem. Damn it, run away. Since he discovered the fun of being a bodyguard for others, this is the first time he has made this choice. The self-esteem or belief of a strong man, compared with the Great Fate poem, there is no room for comparison. We can't let the Slayer of Flaming Eyes know about the existence of the great poem of life, even though he had quit the masquerade long ago, or pretended to quit, facing Flaming Eyes, or facing the heaven and earth fire. If the other party thought of his relationship with Snack's fanatic, and associated the relationship between the masquerade and 0 hour fanatic, there was a high possibility that he would be exposed. His arms turned into wings, and bat wings grew on his back. Ziyudinin instantly transformed into a 4-winged monster like an insect, turned around and flew in another direction. Almost at the moment of seeing the red and making a judgment of his identity, Ziyudinin turned and fled. As he flew away quickly, the bodies of the two small gears collapsed and disintegrated, turning into smooth and flowing mirror sand, disappearing. Qin Ren, who was holding the music box, could not help but breathe a sigh of relief when he noticed Ziyudinin's action of turning around and fleeing and hid in the tertiary barrier imitated by the mirror sand. It was a close call. Fortunately, he made another preparation. Ziyudinin was indeed not able to defeat the previous generation of flame-haired burning eyes, but he was not so defeated that he would turn around and run away. When preparing the plan, he had been thinking whether Ziyudinin would turn around and run away if he just let Ziyudinin discover the fire of calamity. And sure enough, when he found the fire of calamity that he reflected with the mirror sand, Xiao Dinan just stopped and did not choose to turn around and leave directly. After discovering this, his other conjecture was probably confirmed. The main reason for Xiao Dinan's escape may be related to the previous generation of flame-haired burning eyes, but more importantly, it was the Zero-Hour Lost Child. Zero-Hour Lost Child is an important part of the resurrection of the sacrifice snake and its return from the gap between the two worlds. Xiao Dinan is one of the three pillars, that is, one of the three followers created by the sacrifice snake. Compared with others, the return of the sacrifice snake is the most important to Xiao Dinan. Once the Zero-Hour Lost Child is found to be related to the return plan of the sacrifice snake, then, as one of the three gods with the same status as the sacrifice snake, the heavenly calamity fire Alistair is likely to directly destroy the plan and guide other fire mist warriors to fight against this plan. Fortunately, if he hadn't known that Xiao Dinan was a follower of the sacrificial snake, if he hadn't known that the masquerade was preparing for the return of the sacrificial snake, if he hadn't known that the Zero-Hour Lost Child was an important part of the return of the sacrificial snake, and he had only used the mirror sand to reflect the fire of Alistair, and when Xiao Dinan didn't know that the Zero-Hour Lost Child was being guarded by the flame-haired burning eyes crusaders, it's really possible that Xiao Dinan would try to challenge the flame-haired burning eyes, and then find out that the mirror sand was just a scare, and that Shanna was just a fire mist warrior who just came out of the novice village, and then GG. If you only watch Shanna's animation, you will miss a lot of details. Fortunately, he made extra preparations. And now, it's almost time to lift the seal. Using the characteristics of Theragni's power of existence, Qin Ren, who has completely controlled the auto-singing harp, is working hard to record the structure of the auto-singing harp and the freedom of the cradle garden. He has roughly mastered the structure of the auto-singing harp. As long as the freedom method is input once, the auto-minkin can play this freedom method continuously until it is replaced or destroyed. Now, the freedom method in the auto-minkin is cradle garden, this kind of sealed barrier. Before he records it completely, he can't let Marjolaine and Shanna find it. Now, the structure record of the auto-minkin has reached 95%, and the progress of the cradle garden is 90%. It will take about 5 minutes. It takes time to swallow it whole. Looking at the mirror sand that continued to wrap around the auto-minkin, Qin Ren turned and left. Chapter 623. After killing the Asian siblings, Shanna rushed to the direction where Majonglin and Xiao Dinan were fighting without hesitation. When Qin Ren was operating the auto-ming harp, Majonglin was knocked away by Xiao Dinan, who sensed something was wrong. She stood up again from the ruins when Xiao Dinan fled. However, Xiao Dinan's escape surprised Majonglin and Marcoses. He actually ran away. TSK. The Red World Apostles are just like that. They run away when they want to, and come when they want to. With Majonglin's unwilling voice, the wolf-bear flame coat fell off her body and returned to the appearance of a huge book. You let the enemy escape, and you still stubbornly quibble, hee hee hee, pa! Exclamation mark. With the sound, Majonglin's fist landed on the giant book, stopping Marcoses' laughter. After the joke, Marcoses' serious voice rang out, but, my stubborn Lady Marjolaine Duo, this seal is about to collapse. TSK. Really? Doesn't that brat know how to restrain himself? If he kills his disciples directly, the seal will collapse. Marjolaine Duo shook her head, but, the speed of collapse of this seal is a bit slow, so we should repair the damaged parts as soon as possible during this period of time. She turned her head, and the pages of the giant book turned, and the invisible waves swept across most of the city. The search of the free method. She was looking for any remaining phosphorus particles, preparing to use them as repair materials. The search of the free method, which returned the breath of the power of existence like sonar, marked the locations of suspected phosphorus particles on the pages of the book. To Marjolaine's surprise, those phosphorus particles were much weaker than those she had seen before. They seemed to have shrunk at a very fast speed. These phosphorus. It seems that the little girl who contracted the Tanarang Guo is quite capable. She almost used up all the existence power collected by these phosphorus. Marcoses' voice sounded again. Although he was not able to completely analyze this sealed free method, as an excellent free master, Marcoses was able to analyze the approximate function of this free method from these traces. At this time, Shanna also arrived. Elegy chanter, hurry up and repair the damaged areas. Although she had lost to Marjolaine before, it was still important to do business at this time. Shanna also distinguished the priorities and did not bring any emotions. I have already started. Marjolaine continued to stretch forward her hands with hand seals, and the existence power surged out, weaving into the free method, decomposing the shrunken giant flower phosphorus into repair energy, and urging the repair of the damaged areas. Shanna, who was stunned by the words, also shut up and started the same action. Standing on the roof, looking down at the entire city, watching the golden light gradually fade, watching the ruins turn from ruins to buildings as if time was going back, watching the thousands of existence forces turn into star-pointed torches and fall to the ground, turning into twisted buffers, Qin Ren smiled. He just watched Shanna and Ma Qianglin fly around, weaving the free method to repair. It seems that there is no need to use the second plan to buy time. Although he has not yet completely controlled the autochronograph and cradle garden, because Tilia has died, there is no obstacle for him to control the autochronograph. He only needs to slowly close the seal, so that Shanna and Ma Qianglin have to hurry up to repair, and then he can buy enough time to completely record and control the autochronograph and cradle garden. Now, I can fight against the ordinary Red World Demon King. He clenched his fist. However, as the torch of Takahashi, he is not very good at using his power. A new vest is needed, or Takahashi can be turned into a vest, or the vest can be retired. No, it is better to keep this vest. Maybe it can be used as a chess piece at some point. And now, the new vest prepared before can be brought up. Finally, before the collapse of the seal, Ma Qianglin and Shanna repaired the damaged places one by one. As a skilled free master, Ma Qianglin's efficiency is much higher than Shanna. Nearly 70% of the damage was repaired by Ma Qianglin. Just when the two finished the repair and were about to go their separate ways, a strange breath was instantly noticed by the two Red World Demon Kings, Alistair and Marcoses. Shanna, is it a newcomer? Alistair and Marcoses spoke with completely different attitudes. As a combat system, Alistair's perception ability only detected the strange breath, and did not distinguish whether it was a fire mist warrior or a disciple, but because the search for the free method had not stopped, Marcoses had already recognized that the person was not a disciple. What happened in this city? It actually takes two fire mist warriors to deal with it. The next moment after the voice sounded, a white-haired young man appeared in the sight of Shanna and Ma Qianglin. Human, with the breath of a disciple, that is, a fire mist warrior. Shanna questioned bluntly, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" At the same time, she was also asking her contractor in her heart through the contract, "Alistair, do you know this guy?" "No, I haven't heard of his name." "Ah, my name is Baku Liang," the white-haired young man, or Qin Ren, said with a smile on his face. "I was originally planning to go to Tokyo, but I found that the seal suddenly appeared here. Mr. Bakura said that there was a big distortion here, so I rushed here." As he said, he raised the strange-shaped pendant on his chest. A voice came out of the pendant. "The ability of the Millennium Wisdom Wheel is to host the soul, inject and seal the soul into a certain object. The torch is not very convenient to use, and it cannot automatically restore the power of existence. Therefore, Qin Ren found a human with gray hair and transferred Tersra into this human's body. In Ugio, the owner of the Millennium Wheel of Wisdom is called Taper." "Bakura?" "Marcoses, have you heard of him?" Marjolaine caught the name in the words and asked Marcoses, Bakura? I don't know him. He is a newcomer, right?" The two ancient demon kings made the same judgment. However, looking at this white-haired young man who called himself Takeira and looked kind and a little weak, Marjolaine felt a sense of disharmony in her heart. At this time, two more voices came. "Shanna." "Everyone." It was Takahashi and Yuji Sakai who appeared in everyone's field of vision. At this time, according to Taper's character, Qin Ren continued to act. He scratched his white hair and asked Shanna and Marjolaine weakly, May I ask who you are?" Chapter 624, The Wheel of Wisdom and the Guide for the Lost. Qin Ren's new vest was not suspected of his identity. The new identity he created by himself was not suspected. The specially blended and fabricated existence force characteristics also made Alistair and others feel unfamiliar, thus setting the tone of new Fire Mist Warrior. Qin Ren also followed the trend and fabricated his experience of becoming a Fire Mist Warrior 2 years ago. At this moment, Qin Ren, who had nothing important to do, was sitting on the river bank, watching Shanna, who was training Sakayoji, and communicating with Alistair beside him. Or rather, communicating with the necklace. He just found a young white-haired man, used the ability of the Millennium Wisdom Wheel to host the soul, and transferred the Millennium Wisdom Wheel on Tersra into this body, calling himself Bakura. Qin Ren did this for no special reason. As he spoke, Qin Ren's eyes were fixed on the two people who were training. If he hadn't made it clear to Yuji that Shanna liked him, it would probably be like the first season of the animation, and his life would be ruined by tsundere. By the way, before crossing over, he had specially watched Shanna's animation. As a result, the comments were all from a group of self-satisfied brats. Until the last episode of the first season, Shanna had never expressed that she liked the male lead, and only said "you're just a torch," which was full of contempt. It's good enough if it is not understood as "she hates me." As a result, a large group of self-satisfied brats kept posting comments such as "you only know to find Shanna when you have something to do. Are you worthy?" And "Loek, if you don't go to the Fire Mist Warrior for things related to the disciples, do you have to discuss with ordinary people?" Loek, I guess these people, in reality, will have the idea of "she likes me" as long as a woman gets a little closer, and then they feel that they have high EQ, right? They have no self-awareness at all. Tsundere really ruins life. That's why Qin people don't like tsundere characters. They are hesitant and will do all kinds of misunderstood behaviors, all of which are their own faults. Will you die if you express it more decisively? Although Yuji Sakai likes Shanna and has a good impression of her, he didn't stay away from Shanna when he didn't know that Shanna liked him, and even said "you're just a torch" and "you're just a mistus," which sounded contemptuous no matter how you listen to it. It can be said that in this situation, he stayed with Shanna. In addition to the weak feelings that were hit by those words, and I don't know how much was left, it was probably mostly because of his good character, in order to avoid putting the people around him in danger. If you have feelings, express them. If you are rejected, leave decisively. Hiding and doing things that are easy to be misunderstood is really what you deserve. However, in addition to Shanna's own fault, Wilhelmina has to bear a small part of this pot, and Alistair also has to bear it. He turned his eyes to the necklace on the lawn next to him. This Crimson World Devil and the previous generation of Flame Hair Burning Eyes Crusader are lovers. An old father with experience in love was right beside his daughter, watching her all the way, but he didn't teach her well. Alistair had to take at least half of the blame. Alistair naturally didn't know what he was lamenting about. He just noticed Qin Ren's gaze. "Lost Guide, what are you thinking about?" Lost Guide is the name of Qin Ren, who is bilingual, as a Fire Mist Warrior, just like Shanna's Flame Hair and Burning Eyes Slayer in Makai England's Elegy Chanter. This name was also randomly given by Qin Ren, based on the cone-shaped pointer on the Millennium Wisdom Wheel. He couldn't give him a name like Dark Thief King or Zok Great Evil God, right? In addition, in order to avoid showing his true ability, he also needed to cover up and couldn't give him a name like Quicksand or Mirror. Hearing Alistair's words, Qin Ren just shrugged his shoulders. "I was just thinking that he is worthy of being the Tanarang Jiuo, the oldest demon king, no, demon god, and knows so many things." "What you said is quite fake." Qin Ren said this without any concealment. It was obvious that it was perfunctory at first glance, and Alistair naturally could not fail to hear it. At this time, Alistair heard the voices of Red World Demon King, Wheel of Wisdom, and Bakura, who had a contract with the other party, Tanarang Jiuo. "Although I have not experienced that war, but as a person who experienced the appearance of the 0 Hour Lost and the Masquerade, can't you think of anything?" The one who spoke was naturally Qin Ren. Hearing the words of Bakura, Alistair couldn't help but ponder. "You want to say?" When Alistair was lost in thought, Qin Ren added fuel to the fire. As a taper, he spoke again. The reason why I came to this city is that I heard that someone had conquered the noble phantasm hunter. Noble phantasm hunter? Faragni? Are you doing this for him? Alistair was a little confused. Is the noble phantasm hunter related to this matter? Wait a minute, could it be? His voice suddenly changed and became serious. I thought of the eulogy singer. That beautiful lady should have obtained a treasure held by Faragni. Qin Ren had a smile on his face. In fact, I had already arrived in Misaki City when you were fighting Azenzi and Azenta. In addition to the two Mistis, I also found two ordinary people acting in the seal. They should be the two younger brothers of that beautiful lady, the eulogy singer. Alistair nodded. He knew that the contractor of the ravaged minions was followed by two ordinary people. I found the jar in that building. Qin Ren curled the corners of his mouth and said to the necklace that showed the will of Alistair, "The correct name should be called glass jar. Mr. Tenerang Jiuo, you should know who the glass jar belongs to, right? Sacrificial snake." Of course Alistair knew this. When the other party said the first few keywords, he had already thought of the sacrificial snake, but the sacrificial snake has been trapped in the gap between the two worlds, in the permanent trap. In that great war, the gap between the two worlds that was trapped by the ancients and the original fire mist warriors was a gap that even the gods were powerless to break. Alistair knew this very well. He, like the sacrificial snake, was the embodiment of the laws of the red world. The sacrificial snake was creation and confirmation, and he was judgment and judgment. It is impossible to escape from the gap between the two worlds. Is it really impossible? The Qin man curled his lips, not afraid to spoil the plot again. Chapter 625 Silver. Under the deliberate guidance of Qin Ren, Alistair changed his view of Xiu Danan's appearance in Misaki City from coincidence to deliberate. Then, he stayed in Misaki City with the reason that the masquerade will definitely come again. Fire mist warriors basically act alone, rarely act in groups, and rarely form a two-person team. Even decades or hundreds of years, they will only see other fire mist warriors. However, the next event that Qin Ren expected to come soon did not come so quickly. The masquerade is really slow. As Bakuliang, Qin Ren looked up at the sky. Even if he looked up, the white medium-length hair that seemed to be waxed did not change shape. More than half a month has passed, almost a month, and the masquerade still has not appeared, which makes him a little bored. However, it happened that he took advantage of this time to find Makai to learn the free method. He will continue to learn today. Jumping directly from the roof of the building, the height of more than 40 meters has no effect on Qin Ren now. Landing lightly on the ground, he cast his gaze to the west. His sight passed through the commercial district, and Qin Ren put his hands in his pockets and walked forward. At this moment, in the bar of the Sato family, Sato Kusaka was acting as a bartender with a depressed look on his face, shaking the cocktail shaker skillfully and mixing the liquor mixed from several bottles. However, it is better to say that he is a bartender than a bartender. This cocktail is not pleasant at all, otherwise, I would have moved out the whole barrel. Lying on the bar counter with various bottles of liquor, Marjorie's complaint sounded. "Big sister is drunk indeed." Tanaka, who was sitting next to him and looking at the multi-layer cabinet with various liquors behind Sato Kusaka, couldn't help but smile. The sight in his squinting eyes moved from the multi-layer cabinet to Marjorie's face, who was already drunk and lying on the bar counter. Obviously, her alcohol tolerance is average. Ha ha ha. My beautiful high-footed glass Marjorie duo, just likes to fill the wine until it can't be filled. Ha 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 ha. Marco's voice rang out from the giant book on the bar counter. As Marjorie's fist fell, Marco's voice stopped abruptly. "Stupid Marco, you're too noisy." At this moment, the door of the store was pushed open, causing Sato Kusaka and Tanaka Eden to turn their eyes away. A smiling white-haired young man walked in. "Good afternoon, both of you." "Hello, hello." "Oh." The two also responded. At this time, Marjorie, who was still drunk just now, had sobered up and sat up. "You bastard, when are you going to tell me about silver?" Well, don't worry." The one who walked in was naturally Qin Ren. Feeling the fluctuation of the power of existence that Marjorie used to sober up, he smiled and said, "Didn't we follow the agreement?" Qin Ren shrugged his shoulders and sat down in another seat not far from her. "Quite naturally," he said to Sato Kusaka. Please give me some juice, any kind will do. Oh, okay. Satokusaku nodded and turned around to get the juice, but still paid some attention to the conversation between Qin Ren and Margarine. Asshole, it's been almost a month. Are you going to tell me or not? Are you kidding me? Margarine, who did not experience Shen's revenge battle and Lamy's persuasion as in the original novel, still put the desire for revenge first. Qin Ren asked her to teach the freedom method on the condition that she tell her about the disciple named Yin who killed everyone around her. After Margarine spoke, Marcoses also became visibly irritable. So let's just have a fight, and tell the news if you don't want to die. The ultramarine power of existence surged. Seeing Marcoses' reaction, Qin Ren also said in the identity of Red World Devil and Wheel of Wisdom Bakura, "You ravaged minions, if you want to fight, I won't accompany you." When the artifact made of mirror sand on his chest made a sound, Qin Ren continued, "I'm really sorry. Although I have the ability to fight, I am not a combat-type fire fog warrior. I will not accept such a losing battle. Although I can't win, if you want to hide, you can't find me." Qin Ren shrugged and took the juice handed by Satokusaku. "I am good at searching and guiding, and I am also good at making others unable to find me." TSK, coward. Marcoses TSK without interest. Marcoses did not doubt what the other party said. In the past half-month, he only noticed the other party's appearance when he came close to him. As long as he gave the other party a chance to distance himself, he didn't think he could find the other party quickly. "I should have caught that bastard Lamy earlier." Margarine glared at Qin Ren, and gnashed her teeth as she poured the wine from the crystal glass in front of her. "Lamy, I advise you not to bother him. It's useless to bother him." Qin Ren recalled Lamy's story. He always felt that there was a subtle difference between the Lamy he met and the Lamy in the animation. He glanced at Margarine. He had used a condition to drag Margarine for so long, and she had learned a lot of knowledge about the law of freedom. It was enough. If he continued to drag it on, he felt that Margarine would leave Misaki City directly to chase Lamy. Looking at Margarine, who was about to say something to refute him, Qin Ren said, "Okay, I wanted to wait until you calmed down before telling you, but it seems there is no way. I'll tell you now." Margarine swallowed the rebuttal she prepared, and her slightly cold eyes swept towards Qin Ren through her plain glasses. "There is more than one silver, huh?" Upon hearing this, Tanaka and Sato did not react, but Margarine and Marcoses immediately shouted, "Are you still trying to play tricks on me? Are you kidding me?" The simultaneous voices of the two made Qin Ren shrink his body and be on guard. With the fluctuations of emotions and existential power that had just erupted, he had no doubt that the two would attack immediately. "Calm down, calm down, listen to me." As the victim, Miss Margarine, you are sure it is the silver flame, and Mr. Marcoses should not have heard of any disciple with a silver flame, right? Qin Ren chose his words carefully. "But I have also been tracking the disciple with the silver flame, and I can be sure that the disciple you saw and the one I saw are two different disciples. In other words, there are at least two silver." Looking at Margarine's eyes that were gradually calming down but filled with hatred and anger, Qin Ren continued, "And the result of my investigation is that the silver is very likely related to the masquerade." End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.